Question: could British troops soon be in Ukraine?
The Prime Minister announces he's ready to deploy soldiers to safeguard against Russia.
And as he heads to Paris to meet European allies after a wake-up call from Vice President J.D. Vance.
And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Of great British cinema as Conclave wins big.
Yes, as expected, Conclave and The Brutalist won big last night, but there was room for a few more shocks as well. I'll have more later.
Is it time to ditch the Chagos Islands deal altogether after the chief negotiator is arrested on suspicion of money laundering? There's rallying calls to cancel the whole thing. We want your views.
10 years ago today, since Shamima Begum fled England to join ISIS. We speak to the man who spent over a year with the infamous ISIS bride and get to the bottom of why she abandoned Britain.
I mean, the thing with radicalization is there's not one way that someone gets radicalized. It depends on their situation and the way.
So your friend's situation, how did that happen?
It was online mostly.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
Lest we forget, we remember that glorious victory day back in 1945, almost 80 years ago, and compare it to today's precarious war situation around the world.
And in sport this morning, in the battle of the mid-table sleeping giants, Spurs beat Manchester United 1-0 with James Maddison sending a little message to Roy Keane. Jude Bellingham's found himself in a row over what swear word he actually did use to a Spanish referee, and obviously I'll be telling you what those words are. And in ice hockey, well, it all kicked off between Canada and the USA with 3 fights in the first 9 seconds.
Hello, it's largely dry for most of us through today, but there is some snow affecting Scotland later. I have all the details coming up shortly.
Hello there. The time, 2 minutes past 6 o'clock on this Monday morning. You're very welcome. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Now, it was a big night for British film last night. The BAFTA Awards in London. Alex Davies was there.
Yes, I was.
What was it like? All the glitz and glamour?
Yeah, it was actually. It was a bit more subdued than the Grammys were. Everybody kept their clothes on, which was very good for a start compared
That's a relief.
to that one. But yeah, it was a good night for the likes of like the Conclave and the Brutalist, as expected. They were pretty much tipped for glory, and it was relatively subdued, just quite a nice plain sailing evening, to be honest with you.
We'll have all the clips and all the gossip from it with you very shortly, Alex. Thank you very much indeed. Are you a movie-goer, Paul?
Absolutely, yeah. I went to the BAFTAs quite a few years ago.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Good.
Yeah, it was. It was interesting. It was an interesting situation. How can I say this?
There's a story here.
There was, well, you know, there's a story here. There was a few drinks had, and there were interviews going on. Yeah. And I remember it was Mira Sorvino who I remember won the BAFTA that year, and I still remember the worst moment was going, "Yeah, can you get me Mira Sorvino? I want to speak to her." And they brought her over, and I realised, I said, "Actually, I've got nothing to ask her." And then they just took her away again. It wasn't my finest moment. Oh. It wasn't.
You had nothing to ask you. I mean, for instance,
at the
you mentioned her.
no.
First of all, I have no idea who she is. I thought it was a man there. You were.
Yeah, she was Mighty Aphrodite. It was an old. I think it was a Woody Allen film back in the day.
Never heard of it.
No.
I'd be like you.
I didn't do so bad.
You and I'd be led out
so
together.
You are. How are you? But yeah, it was great. But I don't know about you. I don't know whether Alex feels the same way. And I know this might sound a bit morbid, but my favourite part of any awards ceremony is in memoriam. Is that bad?
Well,
because I like to watch it and go, "Oh, I didn't know."
It was
a bit of controversy about that last night.
Well, they missed out 1 or 2 actors. I think it was Brian Murphy they missed out.
Bernard Hill.
Bernard Hill was
yeah. But Jeff Goldblum got behind the piano, played the keys, and that was quite nice.
Yeah.
It is nice. It's a sort of a nice gesture.
You can't leave out people like Brian Murphy and Bernard Hill. I mean, the British Academy Film and Television Awards, and they miss out 2 stalwart actors.
It does seem odd as well, especially because, I mean, how long does it take to... I mean, Brian Murphy was quite recent. Like, how long does it take to just pop a gesture, a slide into the slideshow, you know?
Well, indeed, we'll be asking that very question. Guys, thank you very much indeed. Top story this morning. Keir Starmer says he's ready and willing to send British troops into Ukraine.
Yes, the Prime Minister is en route to Paris for an emergency summit alongside European leaders.
That's after Donald Trump announced talks with Russia without the likes of France, Britain or Poland.
Well, talks will begin formally this week in Saudi Arabia when Trump's top diplomat, Marco Rubio, will sit down with Russia's Sergei Lavrov. That's despite Volodymyr Zelensky vowing not to agree to any deal where Ukraine is not represented.
Let's get the views now of Oscar Reddrop, political commentator, on all of this. Well, where do we begin?
It's a hugely momentous day, I think. I think it'll make a lot of people incredibly nervous when they wake up and see the front pages of British troops being sent over potentially onto Ukrainian soil.
Yeah, but he's talking nonsense. He's not going to do that.
There's a degree of posturing, admittedly, and I think it probably contextually comes after very recently we've had, you know, J.D. Vance and Trump basically, you know, if we cut it all down, calling out, you know, EU nations, including Britain, for being kind of weak. And I think Starmer is trying to get ahead of it. I think he wants Germany, I think he wants other EU nations, off the back of that pressure from Trump, to start kind of strengthening and paying our way more. But, I mean, I have to say, I think you've got to be really, really careful with this stuff because, you know, it's been years now. There's been bloodshed, lives lost, and in terms of things looking like an escalation right at the 11th hour, I don't think
it won't be. I mean, I look at this, and here you have, whether we all like it or not, Trump has come to Putin and says, look, the only two people that matter in all of this, when there should be three, there should be Ukraine, obviously, are me and you, right? So we get an agreement between this, and then we'll just get on with things. So whether they achieve that or not, what difference does it make whether France is involved, whether Germany's involved, whether Britain is involved?
Yeah, I think oddly enough, the two things are almost linked. I think the pressure of Trump now being back in the States and back on the scene, and what J.D. Vance said last week about the EU and kind of, you know, the weakness that it's showing. I honestly think that, you know, Keir Starmer and other European leaders are feeling that pressure, but I don't think troops on the ground are gonna make the British public feel comfortable whatsoever. But to your point,
what he means, if he was ever to do that, I don't believe a word that comes out of the man's mouth. But what he means is he's talking about people servicing machinery and, you know, administrative background people, whatever it is. Nothing. It'll not happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think the real conversation, you saw a lot of ministers talking about it over the weekend on the Sunday political shows, is you know, defence spending. I mean, in terms of like the most acute moment in time since, you know, Cold War and all that kind of stuff that's being chucked around at the moment. You know, we are going to ultimately have to raise defence spending, but who's going to pay for that? Once again, that's the British taxpayer, and that might be quite a tough sell. But I think he's far better placed to start kind of narrowing down and rolling the pitch on that, rather than, to your point, chucking around pretty, you know, hot and heavy inflammatory stuff about British troops being sent across.
So the thing is, we haven't got enough troops to send anyway. You know,
it's in a really, really bad state. And even on defence capability, you know, even if we were to make the great British taxpayer fork out yet more money, it's going to take decades for us to actually get the to actually build the stuff that we need from a defence perspective, even with that additional tax revenue.
I go on about this all the time, how easy it would be to save money that we spend as a country. And there's a piece in The Sun today which I want to refer to, which is about how we squander money around the world, what we spend it on, like taxis for Albanian jails. I mean, honestly, you could not make this up. I'm talking, you're talking significant amounts. You're talking about £500,000 in that. Women's Affairs Director for the military of Jordan, another £500,000. £5 million transforming feminist funding in Iraq. And I could go on and on and on. 14
million in green enterprises in India.
114 million. And, you know, India, one of the richest countries in the world as well, and they have a space program and everything else. Just when are we going to get realistic about what this country spends? We've got homeless people here. We've got just so many problems to deal with. look after ourselves? What are we worrying about what's going on around the rest of the world with stuff that doesn't make a difference? I mean, I know you're saying 114 million in green projects, but what difference does it make?
And they're one of the biggest polluters in the world, aren't they, India?
Oh, you're right there as well.
So...
give us your views on that one. And the poll of the day, Ellie, is what?
Well, it links into defence spending that we were just talking about with Oscar. Is the Prime Minister right not to raise defence spending to more than 2.5% of GDP? Trump wants NATO to spend 5%. Should we be spending more than 2.5%? Let us know. You can scan the QR code on your screen now, or you can go to gbnews.com/poll.
Well, we can get rid of all this rubbish for a start, and we could at least use that money towards the military, because the military is missing out. But
yeah, good point.
Oscar, you should have a read of this as well.
I will. It looks terrifying. Just glancing over your shoulder, looking at it, terrifying.
And the headline in The Sun is about how we spent money in crazy projects like shrimp farms in Bangladesh as well. So it's all.
We need to get serious. I think that's exactly the pressure that Trump and Vance have been kind of, indirectly placing on the UK.
Okay.
Well, maybe we need a Department of Government Efficiency like they've got in the United States. Let us know what you think about that one as well. gbnews.com/you'll-say.
Speak to you again later, my friend. Thank you
Oscar.
very much indeed.
Now, Doctor Who star David Tennant hosted a star-studded night at the BAFTAs last night.
Historical drama The Brutalist and the papal movie Conclave dominated the awards. They both won, I think, what was it, four Alex each, was it? Four each. Adrian Brody and Mickey Madison came out on top in the Best Actor and Actress categories. So, Alex, what's your view? Mickey Madison, I thought that was a man. Who is Mickey Madison?
That's Mikey Madison. She is
Madison.
That's it. She's the leading star in Honora, the story about a sex worker who marries the son of a Russian oligarch.
Yes.
Her award win was one of the biggest, probably arguably the biggest surprise of the evening. Everybody thought it was going to go to Demi Moore.
Yes.
Oh, yes,
and that would have been
course.
quite nice, actually, I think.
Demi Moore has swept up pretty much everywhere else. She won the Golden Globes for the first time earlier this month, and for a career as long as hers and as decorated as hers, this sort of felt like the real defining moment.
What is her role? Tell us what Demi Moore was up for. What is the role that she's involved in?
So she led The Substance, which is a pretty hard-hitting film, basically a metaphor for how us modern society standards of beauty and as she ages, how difficult it is to keep up sort of things. But it takes a rather...
It's described as a horror science.
Yeah, it's a rather mind-bending turn.
Yeah.
But she's really, really good in it. There were a lot of people who were snubbed last night. I thought Ralph Fiennes should have won Best Actor, but that went to Adrian Brody in the Best Actor category. We can actually hear from Mickey Madison's acceptance speech now.
And the BAFTA goes to Mikey Madison.
Wow, I really wasn't expecting this. I probably should have listened to my publicist and wrote a speech or something.
So as you can see,
that's nice.
Even she wasn't expecting it. I think everybody expected it to be Demi Moore's evening. But elsewhere, like we said, The Brutalist and Conclave won 4 apiece. Wicked, Emilia Perez, Honora, June, A Real Pain, and Wallace and Gromit, they all took 2. There was a nice appearance of Wallace and Gromit and Feathers McGraw on the red carpet, which was quite sweet.
Conclave, outstanding British film. There. Now, that is one that after seeing those awards as well, I would definitely go and see that.
Have you seen it yet?
No.
I really want to see it.
Have you seen it?
For my sins, I haven't, actually. But one of our reporters went to the screening and said it was very, very, very good. And Ralph Fiennes, like I say, it's been 30 years since he won the BAFTA for Best Supporting Actor in Schindler's List. So it would have been lovely for him to win it for that, but, Conclave wasn't short of awards at all.
What about David Tennant as host? How did he get along?
David Tennant did well. He said before the ceremony that he wasn't going to go all offensive. He's not Ricky Gervais. He's not going to go out there to offend anybody. He kept it very above board. There was a bit of controversy, though. He did slip a few Trump jokes in. which sort of didn't split the room. Obviously, everybody sort of pandered and gave him a round of applause, but the BBC cut it from the final edit.
Oh,
so he basically made a joke about how Trump wouldn't have seen the film The Apprentice, which is about him in the 1970s, a few questionable scenes in there about his character. He said he vowed never to watch it, and David Tennant said he wouldn't watch it because it wasn't on Nickelodeon, and just couldn't resist a dig.
Well, here is the dig.
Let's make some noise for the sublime, the brutalist. A film about incredible architecture. In fact, it's the boldest architecture in film this year, apart from Donald Trump's hair in The Apprentice. Donald Trump, of course, he says he hasn't seen The Apprentice because it's a 15, it's not on Nickelodeon. See? Donald Trump. I'm worried, I've said his name 3 times. It's like Beetlejuice, I've summoned him. Talking of villains,
And Alex, we'll be back with you because there's so much more to reflect on who won what and what was going on there. So we'll speak to you again after 7 o'clock and throughout the programme this morning.
Thanks.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Now at 16 minutes past 6, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
The former Prime Minister of Mauritius and the orchestrator of the Chagos deal has appeared in court after being arrested in connection with money laundering. Many fear Sir Keir Starmer's Chagos agreement has now been thrown into disarray. Last year, the government signed a deal handing back the British territory to Mauritius, which could cost us, the taxpayer, up to £18 billion.
Elsewhere, NHS England has revealed an additional 2 million appointments were delivered during Sir Keir Starmer's first 5 months in power. Between July and November of last year, 2.2 million people received elective care appointments compared to the previous one. This means the government has met one of its key election pledges.
The Duke of Sussex has said, bring it on, as he discusses the next Invictus Games being held in England. This comes despite the Prince previously talking about the security challenges his family face when visiting. The next event is scheduled to take place in Birmingham in 2027. Now, this Chagos Islands thing, it just goes on and on. It's rumbling in the background and people don't know where it is and whatever it is. But there's a couple of things against me. Why do we need it? Somebody just explained to me why we need it.
Well, we need the Chagos Islands.
Yeah?
Strategic position.
Right. But if we backed out of it, costing us nothing, the Americans would take over and the world is still protected.
So I think if we were to back out, it would be more than likely that China, who's an ally of Mauritius, would step in and there would then be...
No, but if we said to America, here you are, there's the keys, you look after it.
Yeah, I don't know if America would. Do you think Trump would?
He's not going to let China walk in, is he? So leaves them with no choice.
Should we back out of Chagos entirely then? Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll say. Yeah, we're going to be debating it later, actually. We're going to be debating it in the 7 o'clock. Now, 18 minutes past 6, let's get a check on your weather with Catherine.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be largely dry for most of us today, but we'll start to see some snow in Scotland into Tuesday. Chilly, but turning milder by midweek. So through the rest of this morning, then we hold on to plenty of brightness across the southeast of England. Cloudier out towards the west with some outbreaks of rain that will eventually reach Northern Ireland later. Otherwise, we'll have some showers just affecting Orkney. Otherwise, for most of us, it is a dry day out there. Still chilly, especially in the east underneath the cloud. Temperatures here struggling at 4 to 5 degrees, but in towards the west, 8 to 10, and still quite breezy here too. So as we go through Monday evening and overnight across Scotland, actually it's a largely dry evening to come. There are still some showers just affecting Orkney and maybe into Shetland later, but a damp end to the day across Northern Ireland with heavy spells of rain moving through, so take care during rush hour. There could be some spray on the roads. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a largely dry evening to end the day. So as we go through Monday night into Tuesday, the rain across Northern Ireland will continue to push its way north and eastwards, and where it meets the cold air across Scotland, that's where we could see the risk of freezing rain, but also some heavy snow as well. So take care if you are travelling through the early hours. Drier further towards the south and east, temperatures holding up at around 1 or 2 degrees. So as we start Tuesday morning then across Scotland, it's an unsettled start with outbreaks of rain, snow and possibly freezing rain. That will move its way north and eastward, generally easing through the day. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, we'll see hazy spells of sunshine, cloudier out towards Northern Ireland, but otherwise temperatures just slightly milder this time at around 7 to even 10 degrees. Bye-bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Catherine's very jolly.
She is. That's what you need at 6:20 in the morning.
She says bye-bye for now.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't
Why
it?
don't you do that?
I can do that.
Why don't you be pleasant?
I will.
In the morning.
We'll be back with Paul Cook just after this. Bye-bye for now.
He's always pleasant.
We'll be back in 3 minutes.
He's going to be very pleasant today.
He always is.
Since Spurs beat Man United.
Oh, yeah, sorry about
Yeah. Back after this.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Inside Number 9, Stage/Fright. So Inside Number 9, massive cult BBC 2 show. One half of the League of Gentlemen, so Steve Pemberton, Rhys Shearsmith, they are the kind of creative geniuses behind all those sorts of shows. So it's weird, wonderful, macabre, sort of very, very black comedy. And this is their kind of farewell thank you to fans. It is such a niche show and such an extraordinary success already ticket-wise. It's virtually sold out. We're hoping it's going to actually extend. Stunning. So basically, it's 2 or 3 of their episodes mashed together. I haven't seen the show. Absolutely fine. So for me, it was actually just a revelation. Other friends have seen the shows and they were just ecstatically happy. The only new bit is an opening segment of about 10 minutes when the stage pulls back and we see seats facing up with a few people dotted around. It's the most fantastic play on terrible behaviour in theatre audiences. With one man getting increasingly annoyed and basically doing the things that we've possibly thought about but would never do, and all the misbehaviours meet gruesome ends. So don't try this at home. But, you know, certainly a couple of times you've been like, ah! The rest of the show, the first half is based on Bernie Clifton's Dressing Room. It's 2 old-time comedians reunited, very melancholy. Second half is a very gothic-y kind of Grand Guignol, sort of schlocky horror, eyeballs coming out of the face, paintings moving, and then there's a show within rehearsals. There's a ghost, brilliant riffs on everything that's been going on in the West End, handheld camera scenes, which they're mocking, and pop stars cranked into major theatre productions.
I'm liking some of the satire you're describing here.
It's so much fun.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
right? Let's get it over with.
How awkward is it between you two this morning?
Well, it's not really, because United were rubbish. And the thing is that if Spurs had have lost yesterday, Mr. Paul,
yeah,
you would have been in the same sort of relegation zone, of inverted commas, that we are in.
The amount of people that I met at Tottenham yesterday and have been on social media that are going, oh, I can't wait till you speak to Eamonn. And I'm trying to explain that because we're friends and we don't really go in for that, do we?
Both rubbish.
And we don't really care.
Did you see what it was described as, the front page of the Telegraph this morning?
Go on.
I thought of you both. The desperation derby.
Oh, my goodness.
No, fair enough. I mean, there's no argument really about that.
You're very good about this.
Yeah, I know. Well, this is it.
No, we're very good because we're depressed.
You're very graceful.
No, well, I wouldn't normally. No, in fairness, I wouldn't normally be very graceful. But there's nothing really to say about this Man United team except they're rubbish.
And I've got to say, it was the worst Manchester United performance. I mean, I've all the Man United teams over the years. They are really bad, aren't they? I mean, they are.
Do you remember where you were 3-0 up at half-time?
Yes.
At White Hart Lane?
I do.
And we won 5-3.
You know where I was? I was in a cab on the way coming back from holiday. And this is absolutely true. And I sat in the cab and I said, by the way, I said, just pulling up outside my flat, and I said, how did Spurs get on? And he said, you won't believe this. And he said, you were 3-0 up at half-time and lost 5-3. And I went, stop it. Tell me honestly, how did they get? And he went, no. And I didn't tip the guy because I thought, enough. And I was getting annoyed. I'm going, just tell me the truth. What was the real score?
Yeah.
And then I got on and found out. So, yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Anyway,
that was when you were good. Do you remember those days?
I have to hark back 20 years or so then to get that.
Anyway, it was the mid-table mediocrity. Spurs weren't brilliant, and it was Man United were worse.
It's not mid-table. It's 3 quarters down the table.
Sorry, the 3 quarters down the table derby between Manchester United and Spurs. So what's Amorim? I mean, what else can we say apart from the back? They weren't great. Liverpool beat Wolves. Wolves. See, the thing is, Wolves were the better side out of the 4 teams.
Yeah.
In the second half, say the Wolves were the better out of all the 4 that played yesterday.
They're in trouble.
Liverpool, but Liverpool. They grinded a result yesterday.
Yeah.
So there we are. Now
let's talk about swear words.
Now this is good. This is really good.
Is it a good swear word?
Well, it's pretty up there. You know, if you think of a Premier League of swear words, this is going to be Champions League.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's not the number 1, but it's up there. So Jude Bellingham is playing for Real Madrid at the weekend against Osasuna. And it was 1-1. So, but anyway, the result has nothing to do with the story here. So he gets sent off for dissent. Jude says it was a misunderstanding with the referee. Now, the Barcelona boss, who's got nothing to do with this game, Hansi Flick, has come out and said it's disrespectful. It's like, yeah, OK, well, stay in your lane. It's nothing to do with you. So Jude Bellingham says, I don't want to go into details of what I said, but I didn't insult the referee. Now, the Real Madrid boss, Carlo Ancelotti, he said, now this is where I'm going to be very careful about what I say here. He said, I think the referee did not understand Jude Bellingham's English. He said, off, not you. But I can't really see the difference between the two. He's going. He said the thing is, in English, it means so much difference to say you instead of off. And he said off instead of you.
But as Eamonn says, the sentiment is the same.
I think it is.
Do you know I was mistaken for Carlo Ancelotti in a petrol station?
Was this the same petrol station that you were actually mistaken for George Clooney? Was it the same one?
I'm telling you,
was it Madame Tussauds Esso garage?
No, it was a Shell garage, and I was in there filling up, and this guy came up and said, "How you doing? How you doing?" I'm thinking, right, he recognised me, and he said, "Can I have an autograph?" And I signed for him. And he said, Mr. Ancelotti, I want to know everything you're doing at Chelsea is amazing, and whatever. I hadn't the heart to tell him.
God, so he got in the car and went, Holmes? Who's Eamonn Holmes? So you could have taught it. That's the word Ancelotti. But anyway, that's the story. I can't see what the difference is, but he's trying to argue that in English, they're 2 completely different things. Okay. I don't know whether off actually is something nice. But anyway, couple of other very quick things. Dave Riding, you may not know who he is, but we did mention him on the show a couple of years ago.
I remember.
Do you remember?
No, I do not. I'm having to remember.
OK, all right.
2 years ago. So that's Dave Riding there.
There he is. There's Dave Riding.
I'm going to guess he's a skier.
No, he's not. He's a badminton player. Yes, of course he's a skier. There he is. He's doing the slalom, and he became sixth. I know it doesn't sound great. He came sixth in the slalom in the World Alpine Ski Championships in Solbach in Austria. It's the best British men's result in those championships since 1934.
Oh, wow.
Well done,
So well done. Sixth, you know. Can't do better than 91 years ago. And finally, have we got time for the ice hockey? This is great. This is great. Right, ice hockey, Four Nations tournament in Canada. Canada are playing the USA. We know that there are tensions, correct, between Canada and the USA after what Donald Trump had said, saying he'd like Canada to be a state of America. So anyway, USA walk out in Montreal. There's booing during the national anthem, during the Star Spangled Banner. So 3 fights broke out in the first 9 seconds.
How could you have time for 3 fights in 9 seconds?
Well, let's have a look. You're going to like this. You're going to like this. So 2 seconds into the game, Matthew Tkachuk of the USA and Brandon Hagel of Canada drop their gloves. Let's get it on. Look at this. This is at the start of the game. Nothing's actually happened yet. So they start going at it. Look at the referees are either side.
Why are the referees getting involved?
Well, if I was the referee, I'd keep well out of the way, wouldn't you?
Oh.
So anyway...
I think it's their job to break it up.
Well, you'd kind of think so, but look at it. He's just got his hands up.
Oh, his helmet's off.
They are really going for it.
They really are.
Nothing's happened in the match.
It's amazing they're staying on their feet, though, or they did.
Well, they're very good skaters. And
the fans are loving it.
The fans loving it. You know, there's nothing like a good fight, especially if I'm not involved, I always say. So there we are. There were 3 fights, and actually the most amazing thing in all of this, in the middle of the fight, an ice hockey game broke out as well. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
And
they actually played some ice hockey.
They actually did get some ice hockey in, and the USA won 3-1.
What you want in a fight is, right, you want to square up. So if it was Paul and I'd square up to you like this, and then I'd be hoping that you jumped in and pulled me back, and I'd pretend to go with you.
Now, what you're supposed to...
Let me go, just let me at him.
Well, you've got to use the old Essex phrase, leave it, he ain't worth it. That's what you've got to do.
He ain't worth it.
Hold on to it. Leave me at him.
And then you don't actually need to cut them at all.
Exactly.
Very good.
All sorted.
We'll be back to slug it out again in about 45 minutes' time.
Now it's time for the Great British Giveaway. If you want to be one of our 2 new winners, each with a new iPhone, shopping vouchers and £10,000 in tax-free cash, here are all of the details that you need.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British Giveaway with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16 along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Trains have been stopped between Scarborough and Hull because of a signalling problem. In Northamptonshire, Wellingborough Road in Northampton is partly blocked by a breakdown at the junction with Whitworth Road. In Essex on the A12, the outside lane is closed each way for barrier repairs after an accident on Saturday night between junctions 13 and 14 near Chelmsford. In Surrey, the A308 is closed in both directions off the A30 between the Runnymede roundabout and Old Windsor for an investigation. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking around 20 minutes in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of a lane closure for roadworks. And on the M23 from Surrey into West Sussex, it's down to a single lane where a car's broken down on the roundabout off junction 9 at Gatwick Airport, causing queues for around 1.5 miles.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and he did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's that time of the morning where we welcome Dawn Neeson and Chris Akabusi, and they're discussing stories that are in the papers. Very nice to see you guys.
Morning, you two.
Morning, in matching purple.
Exactly, and we did not get on a blower, did we?
No, you didn't give me a nudge. Sorry.
So you say. So you say. Right, troops on the ground. You're both going to have views on this. So,
yes.
Where has Starmer come out and said all of this? I mean, it's not iota do I believe this, or will this come about, or he'll wait till war's over and he'll send in a few people to fix trucks or whatever it happens to be.
Well, I mean, yeah, so the front page of the Telegraph today.
Where's he said it? When's he said it?
Well, this is obviously coming from the meeting in Munich with the security meeting, and there's an emergency meeting being called for Paris today with all the heads of the European states there, because Russia and America are having their own separate meeting about peacekeeping in Ukraine, so Europe all thinks they should get... And Starmer's come out and said, yes, we are going to be, the front page of the Times, we are going to be the bridge between Europe and America, and we are going to be the peacekeeping... We don't have enough troops to fill Wembley Stadium.
No. Well, how are we going to pay for that?
Well, exactly, this is the other problem. So it's kicking off a row between Rachel Rayner and David Lammy about how we're going to pay for all of this thing. But it's like, the idiocy, the front page of the Telegraph in particular is, I'm going to protect the Ukraine from Russia. It's like,
full of it, absolutely full of it.
We can't even protect the Kent coast.
Do you believe this, Chris?
No, I mean, I think the thing is, it's peacekeeping. So actually, if the British went in, it will be so far down the road that it wouldn't be what we know right now with the meat grinder and all that sort of stuff. So I think he's saying it's peacekeeping. Certainly, if it was anything more than that, I'd want to know, are your kids going to go in first? I've got a young boy, 17. Are your children going to go in on the front line first? I doubt very much. Look, I mean... When Maggie went into the Falklands, when I say Maggie, sorry, that's Prime Minister Thatcher. When she went into the Falklands, she got that hero status, and then Blair wanted to do the same with her. Yeah. And my sense is that all of these political leaders think that they've got to be the next commanding officer that takes our troops into another theatre of war.
Could I just be somewhat controversial here? And this is not my view, this is me just saying this. I can see the attraction with the Falklands. That's a 100%. British interest and whatever.
Well, I nearly went.
And that's why it worked for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Blair thing didn't work because no one cared less. Yeah. And I put it to you, and however cruel, however awful this is, British people do not care. by and large, what's happening in Ukraine?
I think you're right, and I think J.D. Vance, the Vice President of America, and Elon Musk have both hit the nail on the head. It's like you need to be more worried about the enemy within, and I do agree with that statement. And when we saw over the weekend that 14-year-old boy who lost his life in it was an Islamist attack in Austria. He was knifed, and that was twice in a week in Austria that children have lost their lives in these attacks. We've seen it in this country many times now, and I think J.D. Vance might have been a very controversial speech, but I do think he's got a point that we need to be worried about what's going on in this country now and who we're letting in. Hence my joke that wasn't really a joke by Starmer offering to protect the whole of Ukraine when he can't protect the people of his own country.
And there'd be so many questions about what it would actually look like. I mean, how would Putin react to NATO troops being inside Ukraine? You see that as an act of war. And then if he were to start a war in Ukraine again, would then NATO troops, British troops, have to be involved? Direct action?
Well, as I said, I mean, peacekeeping is peacekeeping. You're not going to actually be in the teeth of any sort of war necessarily. However, we do know that an incident can happen that sparks something. Right now, I mean, the British troops have got built barracks in Estonia, for example, which is... Obviously, it's not Ukraine, but it is on the Russian border there. So, yeah... I suspect that when things do calm down, there will be peacekeeping troops of NATO peacekeeping troops, of which the United Kingdom is a part. Yeah. But on our own, I don't see it.
No. Chris, while you're there, front page of the Express, the farmers' story. Farmers driven to the brink of despair.
Yeah, I think this is a very alarming story, yet not surprising. You know, our farmers traditionally over hundreds of years have been responsible for our food security. They husband the countryside and making sure that it's clean and green and operative. And they personally have a stake in the stewardship for the future for their families onwards. Now, there are huge psychological risks to suicides, and all of them appertain to this demographic. You know, there's an escape from the psychological pain all of a sudden forced upon them. They can't look after their own family, their generations. Their financial future and jobs are decimated. They see no future for themselves or their family. The shame of being, I mean, it happens to women too, but shame as a man, not being able to take care of your family, it must be immense for a young man. And then the relationship issues that you have amongst your family when things are going Pete Tong. And we just know that, you know, farmers are isolated, they're on their own, and these are high risk factors. And apparently right now, a lot of the suicide charities are getting a high call from young men and women in the farming industry who, as a result of the taxes forced upon them, just can't cope anymore.
It's seen a 55% increase in calls to suicide and counselling lines.
And just on that point, if anyone has been affected by what we're talking about here, the Samaritans 24-hour helpline, 116123. Guys, for the moment, thank you. We're going to take a break. We'll be back after we give you the European holiday destination weather.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, it's a mixed picture out there across Europe. Sunny spells for many, but also some outbreaks of rain, but turning colder in Greece. So there are some showers across Madeira and the Canary Islands, but brighter spells across much of Spain and into Italy, with a few showers around. But across Greece, we'll start to see temperatures falling away. So actually, as we head into the week, especially Thursday and Friday, it is going to be turning much colder, with temperatures really struggling here down in the single figures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
That's football.
Well,
you know, it's the hope that kills you.
It does. It gives you highs, it gives you lows. I mean, if you're an Everton fan at the moment, you probably had far too many lows. But as you know, I'm a Nottingham Forest fan.
Well, you must be having a huge high.
But you know, you had one of the greatest footballers ever to grace the game, Mike, and that was Dixie Dean.
Yeah, absolutely. William Ralph Dean didn't like being called Dixie, but that was his nickname. And he was born in 1907. He was my grandfather's best mate. I'm an Everton shareholder. I've been, you know, attached to the club all my life, and so was my father, so was my grandfather, our greatest ever player.
So back in the day when players like Dixie Dean were playing football for big crowds in, you know, a proper...
72,000.
Yeah, a proper working class sport back in the day, weren't it, football? Not like it is today. You've got to be pretty wealthy to afford a ticket.
Even in the 70s, right, and I've seen some, you know, I do like looking back on the football that I watched as a kid. Even in the 70s now, I've seen pictures of the turnstiles, as we used to call them, with a sign at the top, 5 shillings for the Eastern Terrace. 5 shillings. Yeah. Last time I turned down a ticket to go to a football match was Arsenal, who wanted me to pay £830 for a seat in an executive lounge. And though I could have afforded it, because I've worked all my life like you, I just thought at that point, that's ridiculous.
Well,
you
should have told him you were Keir Starmer's security man. You'd have probably got him for nothing.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. Yeah.
But you know, you go back to the the 1930s and 1940s, even the 1960s and 70s. You know, the footballers would walk to the ground and play a game, and then walk back and go for a few beers in the pub.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're going through the papers with Dawn Neeson and Chris Akabusi. Morning, you two.
Morning.
Dawn, let's start with the Telegraph, shall we? And the NHS sets race quotas to win diversity awards.
Yay, great. This one's going to really annoy everybody out there who's struggling to get a hospital or a doctor's appointment. In the very same few weeks that Donald Trump gets rid of all this equality, diversity and inclusivity, hospitals in the UK, NHS hospitals, have signed up to an anti-racism awards scheme that asks them to meet quotas. They get bronze, silver and gold medals for ticking boxes about equality, diversity and inclusion. And the gold award means that you get you know, the managers have to go to 4 meetings a month on EDI to make sure they understand it. Now, I'm sorry, but I want my health managers to be managing my health. I want doctors to be actually treating me. I actually want to be getting an appointment. I don't want them to be ticking boxes.
Yeah, and if you're a patient lying in a hospital bed, you don't care what that person looks like.
But if you're Chris Akabusi, you might care. I don't know. Yeah. Chris, do you care?
Well, I certainly do care that I get an opportunity to be at the highest echelons of business, finance, commerce, in the health industry. Yeah, most definitely. And I think that if I don't get an opportunity to learn, how do I ever get there? So... quotas, I'm not quite sure about quotas, but I do understand about giving people from different demographics opportunities to be at the highest echelons.
Absolutely, Chris. Yeah, to prove yourself that you are worthy and you are fit to do that job. Not to get the job because you're a woman, because you're gay, because you're different colour skin.
So I sat on a multinational company board for 10 years, but the first couple of years, of course, I was out of my depth, but if they hadn't given me the opportunity to be there, I would never been able to show what I can contribute and bring different insights from from grassroots. And so my experience working with young people enabled me to contribute to the discussions around the board table. So what I'm trying to say is, but if I hadn't had those first 2 years, I would never have been able to follow up with the last 8 years. So sometimes you have got to give people like myself an opportunity to sit at the table to learn the process, procedures, systems and how things are done around here before we can contribute our ideas and perspective.
Were you given that opportunity to sit there in the first place because you were black?
I wouldn't. Let's put. I reckon so. Yeah.
Well,
I do.
You have to be, or else there's no point in it, because Dawn could say, I'm not qualified to sit in this. But funny enough, I totally agree with you. I sit on a board and I go, I remember the first couple of years with it, you think, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
What is this all about? And you do need that time to sort of...
Of course, yeah.
But funny enough, you know, I get to a stage where you're deemed to be demographically too old to be on that board.
Although you do need that old generation.
You've got the experience.
Yeah,
now,
100%. You know? I mean, it was a multinational organisation. They held their meetings in France, and for example, nobody had ever said to the board all of the details were in French, including the numbers, financial analysis.
Kidding me?
And I was the first person to say, well, hold on. This ought to be both in English and in French, so that the Germans and the Danes that were there could...
Zit alors. Now, listen, we're going to talk about... I always think kids come to me and they say, well, what should I study for A-level and whatever? And, you know, a lot of them want to study art. And I say, forget it. Absolutely wasted time. Because, you know, to do a geography homework will take you 45 minutes. To do an art homework will take you 3 days. I mean, it is massive
it's time
to do it.
consuming,
And a brother did art for A-level and whatever, and I saw this and whatever. However, we're now talking about what are these life drawing classes?
Life drawing.
Now, life drawing. If I was life drawing Miss Ellie here, the thing is...
I wouldn't be taking part in that class.
You wouldn't be taking any...
But we'd volunteer, though. That's
the whole thing. It's life. It's experiencing everything. So, Dawn, tell us about this. I find this quite hilarious. There was a time...
I'm sorry, I'm just slightly discombobulated by Ellie now sitting there naked while you sketch her. But...
That's how you do life. That's how you do
according to this
life drawing.
anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, speaking of someone that does have art A-level and geography A-level, this is our...
It's tough, though, isn't it? That's what I'm trying to say.
No, it is. Yeah, no, yeah. Art is really quite difficult. Sorry, Ellie, I can't get that in my head. This is Hampstead Community Centre in North London, and they've been accused of taking a Taliban attitude towards artistic creation after complaints were made about its naked art classes, life drawing. This has been going on in this centre for 30 years. OK, so you know, someone rocks up, not normally someone as beautiful and young as Ellie, but someone that's more saggy and baggy, a bit more realistic.
You're right.
And you all sit around and draw it for your art. Fine, fantastic. 30 years has been going on. Now, someone has complained that it's upsetting for the toddlers group that goes to the same centre in the morning, like 5 hours apart from it. They're saying it might be upsetting for the children. So they are now getting rid of these classes in this place and having to move them.
Do the children see this?
No.
It's 5 hours before.
The toddlers are there at 10:30 in the morning. The art class goes on at 3:30 in the afternoon.
People should learn to say, I can't tell you what they should learn to say, but they should learn to say it more often.
Can't say that Ofcom.
They should learn to say more often, none of your business, go away, leave us alone.
It is ridiculous.
Live and let live.
I mean, yeah, this is just, it's an art class where, and most of the people here are pensioners.
Yeah.
You know, there's a picture of them here and they've literally all got hair greyer than me.
Now, I can't draw, but I would like to go to a class like that. Just sit in school.
Don't go down the Ellie Road again. Do not go there. No.
So they won't, because they're held in the same building.
Yeah.
And who are
parents? I presume parents.
Well, the person who's actually complained. It's a bit unclear who's actually made the complaining, but they have received complaints. Therefore, they have to act on it. But you can bet your bottom dollar it wasn't any of the parents or the toddlers who were there.
Well, this has been happening for thousands of years, people doing nude art.
Yeah, cave paintings.
Yeah.
Greco-Roman world.
I think the cavemen did.
Even the cavemen doing nude art on the walls.
Well,
yes.
I used to get affronted, but it was disgraceful, disgusting. I couldn't care less. No, I absolutely couldn't care less.
Well, it's art, isn't it?
It's art, and you've seen one. You've seen them.
Walk into any museum and you'll see it.
Well,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm laughing and listening as much as recently, in the last couple of years, we've had alternative presentations in schools of how people can live. So you've got the trans lobbies, etc., etc. So that's okay. This isn't.
No, a good point, actually. 52 genders, but you can't look at two naked people.
OK, your views very, very welcome. Have your say today. We're now going to have a look at the weather picture and see what way it's painted today with Catherine Chalk.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be largely dry for most of us today, but we'll start to see some snow in Scotland into Tuesday. Chilly, but turning milder by midweek. So through the rest of this morning, then we hold on to plenty of brightness across the southeast of England. Cloudier out towards the west with some outbreaks of rain that will eventually reach Northern Ireland later. Otherwise, we'll have some showers just affecting Orkney. Otherwise, for most of us, it is a dry day out there. Still chilly, especially in the east underneath the cloud. Temperatures here struggling at 4 to 5 degrees, but in towards the west, 8 to 10, and still quite breezy here too. So as we go through Monday evening and overnight across Scotland, actually it's a largely dry evening to come. There are still some showers just affecting Orkney and maybe into Shetland later, but a damp end to the day across Northern Ireland with heavy spells of rain moving through. So take care during rush hour. There could be some spray on the roads. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a largely dry evening to end the day. So as we go through Monday night into Tuesday, the rain across Northern Ireland will continue to push its way north and eastwards, and where it meets the cold air across Scotland, that's where we could see the risk of freezing rain, but also some heavy snow as well. So take care if you are travelling through the early hours. Drier further towards the south and east, temperatures holding up at around 1 or 2 degrees. So as we start Tuesday morning then across Scotland, it's an unsettled start with outbreaks of rain, snow and possibly freezing rain. That will move its way north and eastward, generally easing through the day. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, we'll see hazy spells of sunshine, cloudier out towards Northern Ireland, but otherwise temperatures just slightly milder this time at around 7 to even 10 degrees. Bye-bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Angus, the A92 is closed in both directions over Montrose Bridge for an investigation. Trains have been stopped between Beverley and Scarborough because of a signalling problem at Bridlington. Some cancelled trains between Beverley and Hull. In Northamptonshire, Wellingborough Road in Northampton is partly blocked by a breakdown at the junction with Whitworth Road. From Surrey into Berkshire, the A308 is closed in both directions off the A30 between Runnymede Roundabout and Old Windsor for an investigation. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks, and on the M23 from Surrey into West Sussex, there's a lane closed where a car's broken down on the southbound exit at junction 9 at Gatwick Airport, causing queues for around a mile and a half. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Could British troops soon be in Ukraine?
Well, the Prime Minister's announced he is ready to deploy soldiers to safeguard against Russia.
As he heads to Paris to meet European allies after a wake-up call from Vice President J.D. Vance.
And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
The BAFTA goes to Conclave.
A night of great British cinema at the BAFTAs. The papal film Conclave wins big.
Yes, big wins for Conclave and The Brutalists. Not such big wins for Demi Moore and A Complete Unknown. I'll have more later.
Is it time to ditch the Chagos Islands deal altogether? Well, after the chief negotiator is arrested on suspicion of money laundering, there's rallying calls to cancel the entire thing.
10 years today since Shamima Begum fled England to join ISIS. We speak to the man who spent over a year with the infamous so-called ISIS bride and get to the bottom of why she did what she did.
I mean, the thing with radicalization is there's not one way that someone gets radicalized. It depends on their situation and the way.
So your friend's situation, how did that happen?
It was online mostly.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
Lest we forget, we remember Victory Day some 80 years later as the oldest armed forces charity begins the countdown to the 8th of May.
And in sport, the famous Holmes-Coit Derby, that's what it's been called here. Spurs beat Manchester United for the third time this season with James Maddison.
Oh, right, that's
sending a little message to Roy Keane after scoring the winner. Yannick Sinner is banned for just 3 months after failing a drugs test and now will not miss any Grand Slams at all. And if you want to grow big and strong like Erling Haaland, I'll tell you exactly how much you need to eat.
Hello, it's largely dry for most of us through today, but there is some snow affecting Scotland later. I have all the details coming up shortly.
2 minutes past 7 o'clock. A very good morning to you as you start your day and start your week with us. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Oh, I've got a story to make you smile this morning. Obviously, it's about a cat. I'll always dig out an animal story for you.
OK.
This is about Tilly. Tilly is from Surrey. Her family live in Surrey. But she was found on a train in Waterloo. She'd hopped on the train. She'd got 90 minutes on the train, and her owner was like, "Where's Tilly?" Looked on the Apple AirTag, which is like a location device that you can put on the collar. So obviously, she's got form to even be wearing an Apple AirTag.
Yeah.
Gosh.
And she was in Waterloo Station. She'd hopped herself on the train to London. And apparently, this is not the first time she's gone on a trip like this. She's been found on buses, in a school, and behind the bar of a pub.
Well, I suppose she does it because someone finds her and returns her, and because of that tracking device, I got 2 of those tracking devices for suitcases.
They're very good to have.
Yes, I thought that'd be very good.
But the thing is, it needs to be near an iPhone to work. So if she goes into a field, I don't think it would work.
No, I think
but if there's lots of people around, isn't that right?
It's anywhere. I think that's the whole point. So, like, if you left your
But how do
suitcase
they then
abroad,
connect?
you'd
But
know.
they've got to connect somehow.
Must be satellite.
It's a Wi-Fi.
Yeah, something like that.
But that's what I mean. There needs to be a phone or something for those to connect to.
But it's wired into your phone. So I suppose if you're in America and Tilly's in London, you can still... You can, actually. I know this for a fact.
I love that we're more impressed by the technological advances of Apple than the fact that a cat got on a train.
This is why Tilly's never disappeared.
Yes.
Tilly realised she can get on this bus, she can get in this taxi, she can get on this train, she disappears, and then eventually one of her owners or somebody turns up and goes, there you are.
So how many? 4 lives already? Out of the 9?
I'd say 5.
4 or 5?
Yeah, she's getting on up there, is our Tilly.
Yeah. So where do they actually find her? Was she in Waterloo Station?
Waterloo.
Just wandering around?
Yeah, she's
So then the owners then got on the train. I'm sorry. So they then get on the train.
Michael Hardy is Tilly's dad, /owner. Michael
Right.
Hardy, if you're watching this morning, do get in touch. We'd like to know how you retrieved Tilly. Did they just put her back on the train?
Before she got on a train to Newcastle or something.
Not without a return ticket, I wouldn't have thought.
Also, does he know exactly how an AirTag works as well?
Well, he could let us know.
Right, OK.
There's a whole interview we've lined up there.
It's the whole
with all our
future.
I know.
questions.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Top story this morning. Keir Starmer says he's ready and willing to send British troops into Ukraine. What do you think about that?
Well, the Prime Minister is en route to Paris for an emergency summit alongside European leaders.
Well, that's after Donald Trump announced talks with Russia without the likes of Britain, France and Poland.
Well, talks will begin formally this week in Saudi Arabia when Trump's top diplomat, Marco Rubio, will sit down with Russia's Sergei Lavrov. That's despite Volodymyr Zelensky vowing not to agree to any deal where Ukraine is not represented.
Well, joining us now in the studio, political analyst Oscar Reddrop on all of this. Oscar, what do you think? Do you think Keir Starmer, when he talks about troops on the ground in Ukraine, what we think he means and what he actually really means, I reckon, are two different things.
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, I don't think that excuses it in many ways. I think when you chuck around really kind of inflammatory, heated headlines and kind of ways forward at this 11th hour, I think that that makes people very nervous naturally. But to your point, I think you're hinting at, it's not going to be quite, British troops, fighting away. It's probably going to be in the peace transition, and we'll see how that goes. I mean, that's the real substance. That's what we really should be talking about in many ways. And it's kind of frustrating in some ways that Starmer has distracted from that, I think. But it will be it'll be people kind of a rebuilding almost is how you would see it. But I still don't think the British public will feel comfortable with that whatsoever.
Well,
I really don't.
Nervous,
very nervous.
Headlines.
And it should be really what we should be getting around the table and talking about and actually strengthening is our defence spending. I mean, that doesn't make people feel as nervous, understandably. It probably annoys them a little bit that it's going to be, once again, the taxpayer forking out for this kind of stuff. But that's the real kind of substantive looking forward, where the real longevity in terms of the UK paying its way and being the strong nation it needs to be, as Trump and JD Vance have put the UK and other EU nations basically on notice for. And it is a bit of a wake-up call. We've been talking at ourselves for a long old time now, and we're about to enter a very, very acute moment in time for the region.
OK, Oscar, let's just break off from you. Please do stay there, because the poll of the day we're asking is what, Ellie?
Is the Prime Minister right not to raise defence spending to more than 2.5% of GDP? So you can get involved by going to gbnews.com/poll. Now, we're joined by Alicia Kearns, who's Shadow Home Officer Minister this morning. Good to see you, Ms Kearns. Can we start with defence spending? That's what we're just talking about in the studio this morning. Do we need to raise defence spending to at least 2.5%, potentially even more?
Yes, we do. And we were spending around 2.3% on defence over the last few years, and we had a very clear plan for how we would get to 2.5%. The US spends around 3.4%, but we should be very clear, there is a clear threat to us. There is still war in Europe, and we have to make sure that we at home are safe. That is our responsibility as a British government, and we do need to increase that defence spending, particularly if Keir is now saying that we're going to deploy troops abroad. That would mean more investment in our army, whereas at the moment, obviously, we've been focusing focus on our RAF and our Navy because that's what protects our home shores.
Alicia, I put it to you, he's not going to send troops abroad. He's all talk, no action, sounds good, hopes it's going to reflect on him, tough guy, but he's not going to put our troops in any sort of dangerous or endangered situation, is he?
No, I don't think he is. I think this announcement is slightly premature. We are still in the middle of a hot war. We saw that over the last few months, unfortunately, Russia has taken 600 kilometres more territory from Ukraine. What he should be focused on, however, is that defence spending point that you are making. If he is saying that once we get to a deal, and I should make clear that a cessation of hostilities is not the kind of deal we need a deal that ensures Europe is safe from this imperialist terrorist state that we see from Russia. But that means investment in defence spending. So you're absolutely right to say that that should be the heart of the discussion today.
Alicia, there is a very, very good investigative report in The Sun today, and it's about the foreign aid budget. And it is something that we discuss here on the programme, and our viewers and listeners are very anti our foreign aid budget, it has to be said. What we squander around the world. We're talking about how we can't afford to up the defence spending and all sorts of things, and yet we give this money around the world. I mean, the ludicrousness, I could list to you things here, that taxis for Albanian prisoners, £500,000 on that. It just goes on and on and on. It's just ludicrous. What is your view on the foreign aid budget, and how could you defend it?
So I have no time for where we see it being misused. Look, we all sit here willing to put our heads in our hands when we hear things like that. However, there are some aspects of the aid budget that do contribute to our security. I know because when I worked at the Foreign Office, we would use aid budget in order to help us on the ground to make situations more safe, to de-radicalise people, to create a situation where our troops, our people and our interests were safe. That should be the priority. Look, we're seeing it in the US, we're seeing it in the UK. There are always projects that you look at and you go, how did that pass the smell test? And that is about making sure that as much as possible goes through ministers and not just through civil servants. Because when ministers have it land on their plate, I can tell you now, ours looked at them and said, no, that's a complete nonsense. Scrap that immediately. But we have to make sure that system feeds through properly and the accountability is there. So I don't support scrapping it altogether. I've seen it work. I've seen it make a difference. But yes, without question, I would want to take a big red pen to it, and I would sit there going through what was actually making us safer.
You see, I like the sound of that. But Alicia, I understand, I totally get what you're saying. I totally get about the nuances and where it can be important, especially for security. But Ellie and I were talking earlier, and this is fair enough, India is one of the richest countries in the world, right? It has a space program and whatever. And yet 114 million quid, 114 million spent on green enterprises, which you think they could fund themselves and do themselves. Sort of explain to me why that is of interest and why that would help us.
I don't know that specific project. There's a small chance that potentially it was creating a new energy stream for our country because, as you know, we are very energy vulnerable. But I'm not going to sit and defend something that I haven't seen. And look, I have big questions, particularly when it comes to countries like India, particularly when they've continued to allow Russia to circumvent oil and to continue to make money, when we've seen them to get in bed with the BRICS, take positions that are not helpful to the UK sometimes on the geopolitical stage. Why we would be giving this substantial information when they have their own ability to stand on their own 2 feet. They are an emerging world power. They are going to be very important in the future. That doesn't mean, however, we should be giving them money now in order to ensure that we have that influence. So as I said, that project, maybe it was going to create jobs in the UK, maybe it was going to give us better energy security. But yes, I am with you when it comes to being questioning and having doubts about some of these projects.
Can I ask you about Kemi Badenoch? Because there are several reports in the papers over the weekend saying that she could face a leadership challenge within months because senior Tories have been speaking to the papers, talking about donors. They're already deserting the party. They think that she's bombing at PMQs and she's being outshone by Nigel Farage's Reform Party. Do you think that her days are numbered?
Nobody has an appetite for another leadership contest. That isn't happening. Kemi is doing the responsible thing. We lost the trust of the British people. There are things that we have to sit back, take lessons from and learn, and that takes time. What you see with reform is they rush into announcements like they did last week, which are essentially tax, and go bust. And what they have to do, they then have to reel back only a few hours later, especially when they realise their own MPs are backing the exact things they're saying they stand against. We are taking the time. We're getting our house in order. We are letting the country tell us where we need to go now, we need to get it right. But the announcements we are making, particularly on things like indefinite leave to remain and a cap on immigration, are the right things made at the right time. We're not going to rush this. It takes a long time to rebuild trust because we lost a lot of it, and that is what she's focused on doing.
Alicia Cairns, good talking to you. Thank you very much indeed. We're now out of time. Alicia is a shadow Home Office Minister. Oscar Redrop, listening to all that was going on there and commentating, she said she'd take a big red pen to that foreign aid budget. I think she's got a point.
Yeah, I mean, it's in some ways it's quite frustrating that a shadow government minister can't see the link between all this kind of crazy stuff that we're spending money on and all kind of far-flung and random places of the world, and actually how we could ultimately pay for the defence spending that we need in this country, rather than the taxpayer forking out additional money.
Well, that's
I mean,
$15 billion signed off there.
I mean, well, there we go. If we chopped into a bit of that and we got rid of some of that kind of horrific wastage, then that would go a long way into paying for the things that we need in this country that actually, like, people who watch this show care about. So it's quite frustrating you couldn't see the link on that. On the Kemi stuff, I thought that was quite interesting. I think I would tend to agree. I think in many ways the Tory party are in the wilderness.
Do you think that just sounds really defeatist, though, to be like, well, it's going to take time, 2-3 years, we'll come back?
I just like, when I say the Tory party in the wilderness, they should see that as an opportunity, in a way. I mean, partly why people got so sick and tired of us was just the infighting and chopping and changing. If we start doing that in opposition, when no one really, to be frank, cares about the Tory party right now, that's utter insanity. So I think, you know, just let Kemi crack on for a bit. Bombing at PMQs, I take that point, but I'm not sure people really watch that anyway. Most regular people don't watch that, so...
I'll tell you what regular people were watching last night. That was the BAFTAs.
Spot on, Eamonn.
Thank you very much.
Oscar.
Thank you very much indeed.
Segue.
Alex Davis, a very good morning to you. BAFTAs,
good morning.
Last night. Alex, I don't know, what did you think of the ceremony? What did you think before we get into who won what?
The ceremony itself, I thought, was very vanilla, but like I said earlier, there was no real offence caused by David Tennant. I do want to give a special mention to Warwick Davis, though, the actor from Harry Potter and Star Wars. Very emotional. He was awarded the Fellowship, which is one of the most coveted awards. We can actually see him accept it just here.
I'd like to dedicate and thank my wonderful wife, Sammy, who died almost a year ago. Life has been pretty tough for me, but thanks to the support of our wonderful children, Annabelle and Harrison, I've been able to continue working and engaging in life. Special mention too should go to Sponge. You know who you are. Thank you for showing me that life can still have meaning and for helping me to laugh and to love again.
Yeah, very emotional.
Oh, that's giving me goosebumps.
So it was really emotional. Those were his two children in the crowd that he obviously had with his late wife. He obviously gave a shout-out to this mystery sponge, as he called it, who said for helping him to love and laugh again, which is quite sweet, you know. I don't think you can really put a time limit on finding love again after grief. If it happens, it happens. Whoever this sponge is clearly helping him through his grief. He was with his wife since the late 80s.
33 years.
33 years, there you go. So, like I said, they had two children together. They met on the set of Willow. They launched a charity together. They took on the world together. And to lose somebody like that is sort of it'd be like losing, I don't know, like a limb, you know?
Well, let's talk about winning now as well. Two big winners from the ceremony last night. They were
Conclave and The Brutalist. They both won 4 apiece. There was a bit of an odd one with The Brutalist because it didn't win Best Original Screenplay. That went to A Real Pain, but it still won Best Director, Best Actor. So I don't know what was going on with BAFTA. I think they just sort of wanted to spread it equally as much as they could amongst the nominees this year. But, you know, taking nothing away from The Brutalist, but it was good to see Conclave beat The Brutalist in the Best Picture, because the bookies backed The Brutalist to do that. The Oscars are coming up at the end of this month as well.
And usually this is quite a good indicator, isn't it, of what's going to win big at the...
Well, that's what a lot of pundits are saying. They're saying that this sort of hasn't helped clarify anything.
Yes.
Nobody knows now.
Wide open.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be great for, you know, one Best British Film as well, Conclave. So
but Alex, what it does is it whets all our appetites to go to the cinema and see some of these films. So are there any that you're licking your lips about?
Nora is supposed to be really, really good. I haven't quite seen that yet, but it's supposed to be a fantastic film. That's who Mikey Madison won Best Supporting Actress for, and she was up for the Best Rising Star as well.
And that was a bit of a shock as well, wasn't it, that one?
Absolute shock, because everybody, like I said earlier, thought Demi Moore was going to take it, but it went to Mikey Madison. She didn't even prepare a speech. But that's the one that I would say next trip to the cinema with your popcorn and your Fanta Ice Blast. Go watch that
Your
one.
next trip will be after 8 o'clock this morning, and we look forward to hearing you then. If you've got a question, if you want to have your say about the Oscars, Alex is here. Please do get in touch and have your say, what you've seen, what you'd like to see, who should have won, who did win. Now let's get your weather update. Catherine Chalk.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be largely dry for most of us today, but we'll start to see some snow in Scotland into Tuesday. Chilly, but turning milder by midweek. So through the rest of this morning, then we hold on to plenty of brightness across the southeast of England. Cloudier out towards the west with some outbreaks of rain that will eventually reach Northern Ireland later. Otherwise, we'll have some showers just affecting Orkney. Otherwise, for most of us, it is a dry day out there. Still chilly, especially in the east underneath the cloud. Temperatures here struggling at 4 to 5 degrees, but in towards the west, 8 to 10, and still quite breezy here too. So as we go through Monday evening and overnight across Scotland, actually it's a largely dry evening to come. There are still some showers just affecting Orkney and maybe into Shetland later, but a damp end to the day across Northern Ireland with heavy spells of rain moving through. So take care during rush hour. There could be some spray on the roads. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a largely dry evening to end the day. So as we go through Monday night into Tuesday, the rain across Northern Ireland will continue to push its way north and eastwards, and where it meets the cold air across Scotland, that's where we could see the risk of freezing rain, but also some heavy snow as well. So take care if you are travelling through the early hours. Drier further towards the south and east, temperatures holding up at around 1 or 2 degrees. So as we start Tuesday morning then across Scotland, it's an unsettled start with outbreaks of rain, snow and possibly freezing rain. That will move its way north and eastward, generally easing through the day. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, we'll see hazy spells of sunshine, cloudier out towards Northern Ireland, but otherwise temperatures just slightly milder this time at around 7 to even 10 degrees. Bye-bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
A year on and the Great British Giveaway is going great guns.
It certainly is. 2 new winners. Each of you would get a new iPhone, shopping vouchers and £10,000 in tax-free cash. Get involved. Here are all of the details that you need.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British Giveaway with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16 along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, up next, the Chagos deal. Where are they? What are they about? Why do we need them? Is it in tatters?
Yeah, we're going to be debating that next.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. This is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, the former Prime Minister of Mauritius and the orchestrator of the Chagos deal has appeared in court. He was arrested in connection with money laundering.
So, fears are growing that Sir Keir Starmer's controversial Chagos agreement could be in jeopardy.
Well, last year, the government signed a deal handing back the British territory to Mauritius, which apparently could cost us £18 billion. So, is it time to get rid of the Chagos deal? With us now to debate this, we're joined by anti-racism activist Eamonn and royal broadcaster and historian Rafe Hadel-Manku. Guys, one thing I want to know from you is, from both of you, as we start off from this, people don't even know where the Chagos Islands is.
Yeah.
Why do we need them? Why are we there? Why don't we just hand them, Rafe, to America? Why don't we just hand the keys to the USA and say, if this is to stop China getting into the Western world. Good, you look after it. Why do we need to pay for it?
Thank you, Eamonn. That's an excellent question.
Well, you're quite right in that this deal's been handled so catastrophically badly by Starmer. We may end up actually giving them over to America now. Who knows? Because everything else is in tatters. Look, it's very clear here. Britain has had ownership of the Chagos Islands for 200 years. It inherited the Chagos Islands from France. Mauritius never existed. Mauritius never had any control over the Chagos Islands. The Chagos Islands are in the Indian Ocean, 1,500 miles away from Mauritius. There's no cultural connection. The only reason there's any claim here is because when the French had the two islands and when the British had the two islands, they were governed as one administrative unit because there was nothing else in the area. But that's like, us saying that the Republic of Ireland belongs to Britain because at one time they were in the same administrative union. But in this case, Ireland is 1,500 miles away from Britain. And the Chagos people haven't been consulted here. This is a case of the British government supporting colonialism. It was owned by the French, now by the British. Now they want to give the Mauritian colonial government control over the Chagos people without consulting them. And I'm afraid that the Chagos people who have lived in Mauritius have said that they've been terribly abused and discriminated against and been treated as second-class citizens by Mauritius. They're vehemently opposed to this. They also say that none of the millions of pounds that we've sent in aid to the displaced Chagosians, to the Mauritian government, has ever reached them. And of course, now we can see evidence perhaps of the Prime Minister there being involved in corruption charges too, which raises questions of where this money was going to go as well. So I think you can clearly see here that this is something that's not
I need to bring Eamonn in. Eamonn, I suppose all this reaches more sensitivity because of the money involved and the fact that Britain is broke.
Yeah, I fully understand that, and I genuinely appreciate that. I'll just touch on a few points. Firstly, in terms of let's just understand the real kind of context that we probably should get with in terms of the fact that most countries around the world don't fully accept the UK's claim to their Chagos Islands. That kind of stemmed back from 1960 after the UN Assembly, the resolution of 1514, which is basically the calling for decolonisation of many countries. So it started from 1960, that kind of, we're not for this. And then it continued on until, 2019, when the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, as well as the UN Assembly, both decided and accepted that the UK had no claim over the Chagos Islands. So that's really important to acknowledge. In terms of the Chagosians not necessarily appreciating this dynamic, well, I think you're right. And that's where I agree with you, Rafe. I always agree with you sometimes, not always, but sometimes. That's the truth. So in this particular moment, I do agree with you. The Chagosians should make sure that they have their say. And let's be clear on something. I'm pretty sure it's anywhere from 1965 to 1970, the Chagosians were evacuated from Diego Garcia. And this government has decided to fund a package of 40 million to make up for the fact that they just got rid of them for this US naval base. So what I really want us to make sure we remember is this isn't about the Chagos Islands. This is about the US naval base on Diego Garcia. And the US never paid America, or rather England, for 60 years of leasing said space on the islands. So we need to really kind of connect to why this is actually happening. And I do also want to just acknowledge the fact that a lot of countries don't accept the claim and don't feel that the UK is relevant in terms of the dynamic in regards to maintaining the US base. That's the truth. That's the truth.
All right, Eamonn, Rafe, we're out of time, I'm afraid, but thank you so much for your thoughts on that one.
Oh, no, we're not finished yet. No.
We're not?
I want to know, Rafe, I want to know, why do we need the Chagos Islands? Why do we need?
Well, because they're strategically important for the Western Alliance. because the key issue
For
here
America.
is that if we...
No, for America. Not for UK. UK is relevant.
Well, let me finish now.
UK is relevant. I'm sorry.
You've had a long
Limited time, Rafe. Limited time.
There are real concerns here that Mauritius, which is a trade ally of China, could strengthen China in the region here. We're weakening our position in the region.
Right. So,
and of course,
Rafe, would you pay, if the money was yours, Rafe, would you pay it?
Look, we've got allegedly an £18 billion black hole that the Labour government keeps talking about, and they're penalising pensioners.
We're paying it for the US because we're leasing this place in Diego Garcia. We are paying that money, $9 billion. I'm pretty sure it's anywhere from $9 billion. There's different articles that have said $8 billion, $18 billion, or $50 billion. We are paying that money for the lease, lease of the US base on Diego Garcia.
Keep or get rid of. Eamonn.
Sorry.
Keep or get rid of.
Keep or get rid of?
Yes.
Oh, I'll get rid of.
Get rid of.
Yeah.
Rafe?
We're paying a foreign government to take over our property. How insane is that?
No, it's for a lease. It's for a lease. It's for a lease.
Folks, thank you both very much indeed. Appreciate it. We'll hit the break there.
Behind America. All right.
Back with Paul Coit and the sport right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Angus, the A92 is closed in both directions over Montrose Bridge because of an investigation. Northern Rail services have been stopped between Beverley and Scarborough because of a signalling problem at Bridlington. Some cancelled trains too between Beverley and Hull. In Northamptonshire, Wellingborough Road in Northampton is partly blocked by a breakdown. In Essex on the A12, the outside lanes closed each way between junctions 13 and 14 near Chelmsford for emergency barrier repairs after an accident on Saturday night. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking around half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks, and on the M23 from Surrey into West Sussex as a lane closed where a car's broken down on the southbound exit at junction 9 at Gatwick Airport, causing queues for around a mile and a half. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And
the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here's my friend who's not going to...
No, I'm not going to.
Today. He's not going to.
We're going to talk about the Desperation Derby.
Congratulations in the Desperation
Derby.
Yeah.
Well,
the Holmes Coit Derby.
Spurs beat Manchester United 1-0 last night, yesterday afternoon at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. James Maddison scored the winner. Did you see the celebration? You know what that was about?
Yeah, I did, but didn't know what it was about.
I don't like the
What is
all that stuff? There he is. There's James Maddison there. He's doing the old quiet thing, holding the...
What does that mean?
What do you call it? Finger to the pursed lips? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's like a shush.
Yes, it's shushing. He's basically shushing, is what he's doing, because Roy Keane had said a few things in the past week on a podcast. He wasn't really that bad about James Maddison, but saying he wasn't that great. And then that's what that is the result is. But the thing is, it was a tap-in as well. So it wasn't like it was a great goal and it wasn't a great performance.
It was a goal. I'd have taken it.
You know, a goal's a goal, as we always say. So
I think there's also goalkeeper questions to be asked at Man U.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, it's not that it was a huge fault, but, you know, he could have held on to the ball. That was the difficulty there. Right.
Put it this way, Manchester United are not the team they were under Alex.
Well, it's frightening to see. What are we, 5 off the bottom, 6 off the bottom? It's really just ridiculous.
Yeah, not good.
Liverpool going well, still going
top.
well, and Wolves put up a big fight.
Yeah, they did. I mean, the second half, I thought Wolves were really good, but Liverpool, they did struggle a little bit, but you know what? Grinding it out, that's what it is. You've got to win ugly sometimes.
That's right.
So it was at Anfield, 3 points, it's all they're worried about. Another win for them, a win's a win's a win, so they stay at the top.
And is it a win for Jannik Sinner as regards his doping ban?
I really think it is. Now, he's accepted a 3-month ban for doping. We've talked about this for quite some time. So he tested positive twice. And the way that the story of this has gone, it was called Clostebol, which was something that was in the hands of the physio that had an open wound, and as he was rubbing down Sinner's legs, it got into his system. So that was the reason, apparently, that this steroid was within the system of Jannik Sinner. So anyway, the International Tennis Integrity Agency, they're the ones that decide what happens. So they said, you know what, we buy that, that's fine. No ban, we'll let you go. It wasn't your fault. So WADA, who are the World Anti-Doping Agency, they've then said, we're not having this. You know, you can't let him get away with this. So they've now gone to the Court of Arbitration for Sport and said, we want another hearing. So anyway, the hearing happened, and the Court of Arbitration for Sport basically agreed with Sinner's lawyers, because there are big lawyers involved, and they came to a decision, you know what's fair? How about 3 months? How do you feel about a 3-month ban? You get a little ban, you know, you can do your time, you can admit till there was a problem. So he said, yeah, OK, I'm guilty, but it's not really my fault. We'll give you a 3-month ban. So the 3-month ban starts now, and there are no major tournaments. So basically, he gets 3 months off.
OK.
Nobody's happy. It's a plea bargain, is what it is.
When I'm looking ahead to my breakfast and lunch today, should I take inspiration from Erling Haaland, the Manchester City striker?
I think you should. 6,000 calories. How about that? That work for you?
That's a lot, isn't it?
It's a lot, but, you know, he's a growing boy. Small feast after the game was the picture. I think we've got him after the Newcastle game with, I think it's like half a pork chop he's got in his hand. 6,000 calories a day. There we are. Look at that. Yeah,
wow.
He's enjoying that, isn't he?
Looks like a tomahawk steak.
It's a big old thing, isn't it?
It's a big old steak.
It is a big old steak, but that's just a snack for him.
So we had this post-match.
Yeah, post-match. He says, I really like kebab, steak, lobsters, oysters, duck, Indian food, sweet and sour chicken.
He would feel that he had to keep himself topped up. It's not that he goes and has, 2 meals a day or 3 meals a day. He's regularly eating then.
Yes, he needs the 6,000 calories. But the thing is, a lot of, especially after huge football games, teams, they will get the pizzas in because they got to carb up, haven't they?
That sort of stuff.
Yeah, so they do. But
I thought they'd have a really strict diet.
But the amount of running they do on a pitch is absolutely incredible.
It's now stuff your face.
The amount of running a referee does as well, absolutely incredible. We've got to run off, Paul. Got to love you and leave you there. See you again after 8 o'clock. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Do stay with us. Dawn Neeson and Chris Akabusi will be with us going through the papers. But first, if you're in search of some winter sun, you might need to because it's very chilly outside. Here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, it's a mixed picture out there across Europe. Sunny spells for many, but also some outbreaks of rain, but turning colder in Greece. So there are some showers across Madeira and the Canary Islands, but brighter spells across much of Spain and into Italy, with a few showers around. But across Greece, we'll start to see temperatures falling away. So actually, as we head into the week, especially Thursday and Friday, it is going to be turning much colder, with temperatures really struggling here down in the single figures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
People living with obesity are people. And they deserve the right for treatment and care as much as anyone else. What we need to understand is that obesity is a chronic condition, or a disease, as some people call it. It's not a choice. And this is the bit that people really struggle with, is that people think this is a lifestyle choice and people have done this to themselves. What we now know is the science and the evidence shows us that this isn't a choice. People have genetic predispositions for living with obesity. What we need to do is be a bit more compassionate and caring to people that live with obesity and support them to make healthier choices, not actually just discriminate and tell them that they're doing something wrong when, you know, if I had asthma, for instance, you wouldn't be saying the same thing to me there. But then it's exactly the same.
Usually, if you're going for an operation of some form or other, there'll be often there is a criteria. So my mother, she had a knee operation. They wanted to make sure her blood pressure was right and all these things. This is, I mean, to hear somebody say that obesity isn't a choice just because you've got genetic predisposition to it, it's just exactly why people seem to be legitimizing being overweight. Ozempic has proved that people are overweight because they eat too much. Because Ozempic tells you to stop eating, it makes you think that you've eaten and makes you feel full, so you don't eat. You may be predisposed to anything, but you also have a large percentage of responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. So absolutely, it is in the patient's best interests, because if you're overweight, it'll take you longer to heal. You're more likely to have complications, the same if you smoke, and also the outcomes are usually better. So for a smoker, if you quit, say 4 weeks before surgery, you're 25%, your risk is lower of respiratory complications. So this is literally, of course it's discriminatory, because you have to decide, you have to prioritise the people that are likely to survive the operations.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're going through the papers with Dawn Neeson and Chris Akabusi. Morning, you two.
Morning.
Chris, let's start with this story showing The Guardian today. The UK is urged to offer prompt help to this couple who are being held in Iran.
Yeah. So Lindsay and Craig Foreman have been held in Iran. Craig is a carpenter, Lindsay's a life coach. They were driving through the country.
They were on their holidays, basically. They were on their way to Australia.
Yeah.
On motorbikes?
Well, apparently. I'm surprised about this. So they were warned by the Foreign Office, so it means they were in contact with the Foreign Office not to go. Friends and family told them not to go through Iran. Still, they went. Lindsay was doing a vlogs, constantly updating, believes in the milk of human kindness, wanted to show the beauty of not just the country and the landscape, but the people within. They've been arrested by the state, who have put them under security charges. In the paper, you see a meeting with them and the ambassador. I was saying to Dawn, I was arrested in Nigeria.
Why?
basically, I drove from Lagos. I was being driven from Lagos to my hometown, 500-mile trip down to Owerri, and basically I stopped by a checkpoint, have to dash. The driver decided not to dash, and we were taken to a police station.
Sorry, what do you mean dash?
So if the customs official or the policeman stops you and they say, papers, show me your papers.
Yes.
They're not really wanting to see your papers. They want
to see your wallet.
Just give them a couple of dollars and you're on your way. Well, after a while, this is not linked to this story, but after a while, you get fed up with doing it. And this particular checkpoint in Poplar Hill decided, I'm going to spend the night in a nick, myself, my brother and my driver. The point I'm trying to make, though, was that there was no foreign officer to come to save me. There was no meeting the ambassador. Basically, I had to interact with the people, and I got away. Well,
work
got away
out
with
yourself.
You work, exactly. And that in itself is a great lesson. We live in a lovely, secure...
Did it cost you? Did you pay money?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not a lot of money. $10 and you're off.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a lot of money in local currency.
Yeah.
But it was clear I wasn't going to get away with it. I was going to be waylaid for a couple of days if I didn't. But the point I'm trying to make, there was no intervention with the state. What I'm seeing, and no expressions, I've got no idea, but I'm just so surprised that this level, the foreign officer involved, the UK ambassador involved, the state of Iran are involved. So, I don't know what's going on, but what I know, that's a massive, highfalutin engagement for a couple who are apparently on the hollybobs going through Iran to Australia. And that's all I've got to say. I've got no idea. It must be alarming. If these were my friends or my family, I would be concerned. But my concern would be, especially at that level, to be involved, that is serious.
I think because Iran is so volatile at the moment. I mean, the Iranian government's also saying that this couple are being used as political bargaining chips, which is why everyone's involved at such a high level. And the fact that, you know, the headline, if you have blonde hair and blue eyes, Iran isn't safe, is coming from a source. We're not quite sure where the source is, but it's a very emotive headline. You know, in theory, this couple are on the holiday, going through Iran, which is a beautiful country, on their motorbike. But because it's such a volatile area, they are being used politically now as a pawn.
And because they're British.
Yeah, because they're British and they do have blonde hair and blue eyes.
Blue eyes, yeah.
You'd be in trouble, Ellie.
In trouble, yeah. Guys, let's talk about when was the last time you bought an LP, Dawn? Do you remember?
Long player, for those who don't know, for the young people watching.
Yeah, and on vinyl, an actual vinyl in an actual cover. It was in Denmark Street, and it was on Thursday. Denmark Street in London, Old Tin Pan Alley, guitars, rock and roll, da-da-da-da-da. Husband's birthday, and they've got lots of record shops down there, so we brought a vinyl record and a guitar to go with it when it was his birthday.
And you bought one last week?
Yeah, last week.
Wow, my God.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're old school. We have more vinyl records than probably HMV put together. So, yeah, but we like it. And as we were saying just now, there's nothing like, you know, the actual cover, the artwork, the actual playing it on a disc. Rather than listening to stuff on your phone, that's not music.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been donkey's years, at least 3 decades. Finsbury Park, you go down there, little ragamuffin styly, you bump in there, you start leafing through all the LPs and stuff, and you just talk to a buddy there. He says, oh, well, I'm to that one. And then before you know it, look at the B-side, you check out the B-side, you love the B-side, and then, like you said, you look at the old artwork. It was just a phenomenal experience. So the idea that, John Lewis?
Yeah.
That's a very clever move, because all of a sudden you get the young person out away from his iPad or his phone into a community. You find your tribe, you discuss the nuance of the music, and you come out, end up guaranteed with 3 or 4 LPs or that you didn't intend to buy, just on the one that you did intend to buy. So, yeah, I love the idea.
But they've teamed up with Rough Trade to sell classic albums in vinyl, so they're going for the younger market.
Well, they're rising in popularity with all the
vinyl is incredibly popular. Yeah, very
so
popular.
these are classic albums. These are David Bowie, Slade, whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah, Marvin Gaye, and things like that. So they are the classic albums.
Now, you see, I'd be interested in that now. I sort of think, why would I go into...
Well, even that, you see, like saying that Bowie, John, Slade, Alice Cooper, Tangerine Dream, Santana. You start going down there. Well, that's just my life. To realise, actually, now that is antiquity.
Yes.
That's just the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
But you know, Chris, the emotion involved in that. I mean, I always remember saving up my pocket money.
Oh God, yeah.
So maybe it took you 6 weeks or so, and then you were able to buy your album. And I can't remember how much I would have paid for an album at the time. I remember that the singles were 50p.
Yeah.
And so an album, £2.50 or something.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Whatever.
Remember your first album you bought?
No, I don't. I don't.
You too?
I do.
Gifted and black.
My first album was, I bought it in Woolworths, and when Woolworths had a vinyl thing, and it was Gary Glitter.
Come on.
You can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore.
Come on.
We're not supposed to celebrate that. It's supposed to be that he never existed. You know,
exactly.
But if it is part of our... And the Glitter gang, what we call the Glitter Band and whatever.
Yeah,
and,
it was their very first album.
I can remember going to see him in Belfast.
Well, he was big, he was camp, he had all of this glitter, obviously. I mean, he was massive superstar back in the day.
But for me, if I look back now, great nostalgia. Of course, David Essex was there. I remember that. And but Slade, to me, just
Can't feel the noise.
No, for me, I can't think. The girls just love the Bay City roll-ups.
Oh no.
The Bay City roll-ups, mate. Yeah.
And why? What is seeing him?
Exactly.
Ellie, what was your...
Donny Osmond.
Oh no, don't ask me about my first.
Go on.
Come on, Ellie.
It would have been Atomic Kitten.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cute.
So what was the next story?
Guys,
thankfully we're
thank
out
you
of time.
both very much indeed. Really appreciate that. Nice trip down memory lane there.
Nice.
Guys, we'll be back again in about 40 minutes or so.
Let's get a check on the weather now with Catherine Chalk.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be largely dry for most of us today, but we'll start to see some snow in Scotland into Tuesday. Chilly, but turning milder by midweek. So through the rest of this morning, then we hold on to plenty of brightness across the southeast of England. Cloudier out towards the west with some outbreaks of rain that will eventually reach Northern Ireland later. Otherwise, we'll have some showers just affecting Orkney. Otherwise, for most of us, it is a dry day out there. Still chilly, especially in the east underneath the cloud. Temperatures here struggling at 4 to 5 degrees, but in towards the west, 8 to 10, and still quite breezy here too. So as we go through Monday evening and overnight across Scotland, actually it's a largely dry evening to come. There are still some showers just affecting Orkney and maybe into Shetland later, but a damp end to the day across Northern Ireland with heavy spells of rain moving through. So take care during rush hour. There could be some spray on the roads. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a largely dry evening to end the day. So as we go through Monday night into Tuesday, the rain across Northern Ireland will continue to push its way north and eastwards, and where it meets the cold air across Scotland, that's where we could see the risk of freezing rain, but also some heavy snow as well. So take care if you are travelling through the early hours. Drier further towards the south and east, temperatures holding up at around 1 or 2 degrees. So as we start Tuesday morning then across Scotland, it's an unsettled start with outbreaks of rain, snow and possibly freezing rain. That will move its way north and eastward, generally easing through the day. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, we'll see hazy spells of sunshine, cloudier out towards Northern Ireland, but otherwise temperatures just slightly milder this time at around 7 to even 10 degrees. Bye-bye for now.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Angus, the A92 is closed in both directions over Montrose Bridge because of a police investigation. Train services aren't running between Beverley and Scarborough because of a signalling problem at Bridlington. There's a reduced service between Beverley and Hull. In Essex on the A12, the outside lane is closed each way for emergency barrier repairs between junctions 13 and 14 near Chelmsford after an accident on Saturday night. Northbound delays towards Chelmsford are starting to build. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of road works. Some cancelled Gatwick Express and Southern Rail services into and out of Victoria Station in London through Balham because of a signalling problem, and the M3 in Hampshire is partly blocked northbound by an accident between junctions 9 and 8 from Winchester to the A303, causing delays.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Want to be one of 2 lucky Great British giveaway winners? That's right, you could win one of 2 prize bundles, which includes a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store, and an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. What would you spend that cash on? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Could British troops soon be in Ukraine?
The Prime Minister announces he's ready to deploy soldiers to safeguard against Russia.
Keir Starmer heading to Paris to meet European allies after a wake-up call from Vice President J.D. Vance.
And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer has cleared that any troops from Britain going to Ukraine would not be going there to be involved in direct fighting against Russia. They would be peacekeeping forces. It's such a volatile region that it is a very dangerous assignment for any peacekeeping force.
The bat goes to Conclave.
A night of great British cinema as papal film Conclave wins big at the BAFTAs.
Yes, Conclave and The Brutalist did very well last night, but controversy in the Best Foreign Film category. I'll tell you more later.
10 years ago today, since Shamima Begum fled England to join ISIS. We speak to the man who spent over a year with the infamous ISIS bride, and we get to the bottom of why she abandoned Britain.
I mean, the thing with radicalization is there's not one way that someone gets radicalized. It depends on their situation and the way.
So your friend's situation, how did that happen?
It was online mostly.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
Historic. We remember Victory Day some 80 years on as the oldest armed forces charity begins the countdown to the 8th of May and the comparison against the state of peril much of the world is in today.
Well, it's 80 days until 80 years of VE Day. Here at Royal Albert Hall, with this Spitfire replica, there'll be commemoration, but also a bit of celebration.
And the sport this morning, in the battle of the mid-table sleeping giants, we've decided to call them for now. Spurs beat Manchester United 1-0, with James Maddison sending a little message to Roy Keane. Jude Bellingham has found himself in a row over what swear word he actually used to a Spanish referee. And in ice hockey, well, it all kicked off between Canada and the USA with, get this, 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the match.
Hello, it's largely dry for most of us through today, but there is some snow affecting Scotland later. I have all the details coming up shortly.
On this Monday morning, just after 8 o'clock, I'm Eamonn Holmes. Good morning.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Ellie, in terms of relaxation and in terms of physicality, and I don't know if you do this, Paul, but Ellie gets into the kitchen.
Get a bit
and when she's
boogie
there,
on.
she sees the kitchen as a bit
kitchen disco.
her dance floor.
Yes.
She
The kitchen is the dance floor.
shimmies around.
Yeah. And apparently it's very, very good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Experts are saying if you can dance for 20 minutes a day in your kitchen, so whilst you're making the dinner, you have a little boogie.
It can be dangerous, though, right?
No, if you have a little boogie, you could do that whilst you're stirring in the saucepan.
Yeah.
It is your recommended exercise for the week.
Right.
Yeah, you're meant to do 150 minutes of moderate exercise.
Oh, it's madness, surely.
That much. Just 20 minutes a day and you're done.
Well, even if it's not that much, then it's just good to do. And then, you see, there is certain music that comes on, and you just can't control yourself. You just have
Like
to.
Lionel Richie.
Oh,
All night long.
All Night Long, beautiful song.
That would be dangerous if you dance on the ceiling of your kitchen.
It would, yeah.
Whilst you're cooking the stir-fry.
Yeah.
Would be different.
Bridget Jones does it. You know, I watched that film last week, the new Bridget Jones. She likes a boogie as she's getting ready.
What are you watching, Bridget?
I know. What
Are you kidding?
Enjoy that?
It's a really good film.
It's fantastic.
Look at you, and here's 2 men here sitting there, and we're going, why? Unless you were on a really hot date going to the cinema.
Or you were watching it purely
It was
for work.
It was Valentine's Day.
Oh, OK, there we are. That's fair.
She wants to see it again. She wants to see it again. I think it might be the storyline or the really fit leads.
I haven't seen one of them. I mean, I say that against myself.
I haven't either.
Yeah.
I haven't.
They're fantastic. They are really good.
Are they?
What, Bridget Jones? Have you seen all of Bridget
Well,
Jones?
I've seen 3 of them. I haven't seen the last one, so I need to see that.
That's all very well, but have you seen Bridge on the River Kwai? That's the
Oh, yes.
But if it's good
Where
enough,
Eagles Dare.
There you go.
You know, it's just a real film.
Yeah.
but if it's good enough for Bridget Jones, it's good enough for us, and we should all be dancing in the kitchen. Do you dance in the kitchen?
I've done country dancing in the kitchen with my daughter.
Do you like
For some reason, we do country. When I was at primary school, they used to make us do country dancing.
Really?
So I still remember a do-side-do and a strip-the-willow.
Wow.
Like American country dance.
I think it was, yeah. Do-side-do, backwards and forwards.
'Cause I'm
And
learning-
strip-the-willow, where you do it, it's...
I'm learning at the moment how to jive.
Oh.
No, Irish jiving. Like this one.
Oh, I can see what's going to happen at
That
the
one.
wedding.
Yeah, that's what
Oh, my
I'm doing.
goodness, is that what it is?
Yeah, and it's this whole spin.
So what's the difference
in,
between a
out.
normal jive and an Irish jive?
I don't know. I could just tell you what
Alcohol,
I've
I would
learned.
say.
Yes.
Yeah, there needs to be lots of alcohol.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, if you dance in your kitchen, do send us a video if you're doing so, please, this morning. That would be great entertainment for us this morning. gbviews@gbnews.com is the email address. If you can send us a video file, we'd love to see that.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll share them on the telly.
Keir Starmer says he's ready and willing to send British troops into Ukraine.
Yes, the Prime Minister is en route to Paris for an emergency summit alongside European leaders. That's after Donald Trump announced talks with Russia without the likes of Britain, France or Poland. Talks will formally begin this week in Saudi Arabia when Trump's top diplomat, Marco Rubio, will sit down with Russia's Sergei Lavrov. That's despite Volodymyr Zelensky vowing not to agree to any deal where Ukraine is not represented.
Well, joining us now, GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White, who will give us the details on this. If true, Mark, and I must admit, I just can't see it happening. What role would British forces have in Ukraine?
Well, you're right. It's not going to happen if there's not a deal on a ceasefire. But if there is a ceasefire, then I think it's very likely that British, German, French, maybe some US air cover will be in Ukraine, acting as a guarantor to try to ensure that any peace is adhered to by both sides. But that in itself is not without significant risk. It is a very volatile region in which, of course, the bloodiest of wars continues to rage now as we approach the 3rd anniversary of Russia's main invasion into Ukraine. So there's no doubt, regardless of whether this is peacekeeping rather than actually boots on the ground to take on Russia in a warfighting capacity, even in a peacekeeping role, this is extremely dangerous for any country that commits its troops to go into such a very dangerous and volatile region. As we speak, the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has now arrived in Saudi Arabia for what are effectively prelim talks with Russia. Lots of officials in Europe getting rather exercised about the fact that they are not invited to these initial discussions. But to be honest, as J.D. Vance, the US Vice President, said last week, there's a new sheriff in town, and under the old sheriff, there were no real peace talks in recent years with regard to Russia and Ukraine. It was just stalemate with the US, with the UK and others contributing to Ukraine's defence. Donald Trump wants to do that differently. He wants to try to get both sides around the table. And now, initially, it's finding out what Russia will want, what their red lines are. Because remember, under Joe Biden and under these European countries, of course, including the UK, no one would speak to Russia. So no one really knows exactly what Russia might be prepared to accept out of this. Everyone knows what Ukraine's red lines are because we've been dealing intimately with Ukraine throughout this war. So I think in a way it's sensible to get across to Saudi Arabia and to have these exploratory talks with Russia to see just what they would be prepared to enter into in terms of negotiations.
Thanks, Mark. Leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.
That leads on to our poll of the day. Today we're asking, is the Prime Minister right not to raise defence spending to more than 2.5% of GDP? Well, so far, 11% of you think so, and 89% of you want more spent on defence. So it would be a popular move then, it would seem.
Yeah, Martin Daubney, 3 o'clock this afternoon, final result on that one, if you want to take part. Today, the nation's oldest armed forces charity, that's the Soldiers, Sailors and Airmen's Families Association, will kick off the countdown to the 80th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day.
Well, GB News reporter Charlie Peters joins us now from the Royal Albert Hall, where the event is taking place. Good morning, Charlie.
Charlie, amazing to see that Spitfire behind you. I mean, something which is synonymous with the war and did so much, and through the Battle of Britain and whatever, basically swung it Britain's way.
Well, let's start with that Spitfire, and good morning from the Royal Albert Hall. I was speaking to people who made it. This replica, it's a one-to-one replica down from Kent, and yes, it's a thing of beauty, and it's a treat always to see one, isn't it? And so, yeah, quite the sight this morning as the sun rose over London to see this Spitfire being really at the centre of this commemoration as we start the 80-day countdown to 80 years since VE Day, the formal end of the war in Europe, which really kick-started the end of the Second World War. And the reason why we've got that 80-day countdown is to remind people of that occasion, to give people a chance to remember this might be one of the few occasions left when we can share in that celebration and that period of remembrance with those who endured it, who served in it, and who frankly suffered through it. Well, as we prepare for those 80 days, let's speak to Lady Walmsley, who was involved in preparing for these commemorations. What does it mean to start this process today in Royal Albert Hall?
Well, it's absolutely essential because it's a chance to remind everybody that it is 80 years since the victory in Europe, which, as you said, prefaced the end of the Second World War. And with our veterans who served in that war becoming fewer in number, it's a chance to publicly thank them for their service, for protecting our freedom and for liberating those who were under the yoke of dictatorships.
And Alex, this is a period of commemoration, of course, but also it's one of celebration. You've got great events going on here to recreate the party atmosphere of VE Day.
Absolutely. It's going to be the kind of thing that Britain does so well, a bit like a sort of last night of the proms to celebrate VE Day. There will be music, there will be singing, there will be dancing, there will be recollections from those who served or endured the war firsthand, because that's what's really powerful and great testimony.
SAFA does so much, obviously, to support veterans and serving members of the armed forces, but how important are those stories to keep those voices alive as we remember 80 years since VE Day?
Well, it makes it absolutely relevant when you hear it from the person who went through it. SAFA, at that time, we supported the women and children who'd been bombed out or made homeless, or children who'd been orphaned because of the war, and it's the kind of thing that 140 years after we were founded, we're still doing today.
And as you mark the commemoration as well, what else can we expect today as we prepare for that countdown?
Well, today we will be hearing from some of the veterans and some of the people affected by the war who are coming here to see the Spitfire, to see the Albert Hall, and to talk to all of us about what they went through.
Thank you, Lady Walmsley. And we'll be doing some of that as well at GB News, speaking to some of those key voices, capturing their memories as we begin to mark 80 days, that countdown towards the 80-year anniversary of VE Day, victory in Europe, here at Royal Albert Hall.
And Charlie, when you think about it, the people who flew those Spitfires behind you there were younger than you. Younger than you doing that. They could be 19, 20, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and soldiering and serving in the armed forces, it's a young person's game, generally speaking. And when you hear about some of the stories of people making those brave sacrifices, barely out of school, some of them still in school, doing whatever they can to get to the front lines, it is truly humbling.
Thanks, Charlie. Thank you very much indeed. Leave it there.
Thank you. Now, Doctor Who star David Tennant hosted a star-studded night at the BAFTAs last night. The historical drama The Brutalist and the papal movie Conclave dominated the awards, winning 4 accolades each. That's as Adrian Brody and Mikey Madison came out on top in the Best Actor and Actress categories. Well, with us now with all of last night's highlights, and he was there himself, GB News entertainment editor Alex Davies. Good to see you, Alex.
Yes, thank you for having me. Didn't win Best Newcomer, you know.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a very, like I said earlier, it was quite a safe ceremony. Not too many political grandstanding or anything like that. It was quite a nice evening. A few controversies. Is Demi Moore missing out on Best Actress to Mikey Madison, as you just mentioned. But probably one of the biggest controversies comes in the Best Film Not in an English Language category. Why
is that?
Well, that went to Emilia Perez. That's the Spanish language Netflix musical about a transgender cartel boss. And this is the director who making his speech when they won.
Above all, I would like to thank all the wonderful artists who brought this film to life and who are here with us tonight. My dear Zoe, my dear Selena, Virginie, Paul, Juliette, Camille, Clément, Julia and your team, but also you, my dear Carla Sofia, that I embrasse, that I kiss.
Je suis profondément fier de ce que nous avons accompli ensemble. Vive Emilia Pérez.
I'm deeply proud of what we have all achieved together. Long live Emilia Pérez.
Now, what's interesting about that is he name-checked the lead actress, which is the trans actress Carla Sofia Gascon. Now, Carla Sofia Gascon has been in hot water, shall we say, of late, over unearthed tweets that were racist, Islamophobic. There were others where she fat-shamed singer Adele. She also called her now Emilia Perez co-star Selena Gomez a rich rat. Some very unsavoury tweets that she once tweeted. They've come to light now, and basically the director, I'm going to butcher his name, is Jacques Audiard. He's distanced himself from her. He said she's playing the victim card because she's come out and said that she's not a racist. She's apologised. She's done tearful TV interviews, but fans aren't having it. And it sounded like the director wasn't having it either until he name-checked her in that speech there. So Emilia Perez beat a lot of other films in the category, obviously. One being Kneecap, whose director, I forget his name, Rich Pepiote. He won Best British Debut for a writer, producer or director. So he won that. So Kneecap was already on a winning streak, but BAFTA didn't see it worthy to beat Emilia Perez in the Best Foreign Film, despite all the heat surrounding it.
But the big winners of the night were...
Conclave and The Brutalist, yeah, four awards apiece. Conclave winning Best Film overall, which was a bit of a surprise. Like we said, this normally sets the stage for the Oscars. Everybody thought The Brutalist was going to win everything. It hasn't. Conclave is proving stiff opposition. And Mikey Madison from Minora also proving stiff opposition in the Best Actress category as well, over Demi Moore.
OK. Alex, good to see you. Thanks very much. You're going to be back with us in the 9 o'clock.
A look at the other stories coming into the newsroom on this Monday morning. The family of British nationals Craig and Lindsay Foreman are rallying to secure their safe return after the couple were detained in Iran. The pair were travelling across the world on their motorbike before being arrested in January, with Iranian state media reporting they face security charges. The Foreign Office is in contact and providing consular support.
The former Prime Minister of Mauritius and the orchestrator of the Chagos deal has appeared in court after being arrested in connection with money laundering. Fears are now grown that Keir Starmer's controversial Chagos agreement could be in jeopardy. Last year, the government signed a deal handing the British territory to Mauritius, which could cost the taxpayer up to £18 billion.
NHS England has revealed an additional 2 million appointments were delivered during Keir Starmer's first 5 months in power. Much to the government's relief, this means they have already met one of its key election pledges.
And Prince Harry has said, bring it on, as he discussed the next Invictus Games being held in the UK. This comes despite the Prince previously talking about the security challenges his family face when visiting. The next event is scheduled to take place in Birmingham in 2027.
Where's Harry holding those Invictus Games? I know it's in Canada, but it just looked beautiful. Where do you know where it is in Canada?
Yeah, it was in Canada, wasn't it, this time around? Birmingham in 2027. I don't know where in Canada.
Where in Canada?
Was it Whistler?
Was it Vancouver, Whistler? It just looked wonderful. It looked like one of those days where I wish all weather would be like here. Weather here is just grey, all the time grey.
It was in Whistler.
Whistler, was it?
Yeah, Whistler.
Yeah.
Vancouver, Whistler. There we are.
Vancouver? Oh. I've been to Vancouver.
And was it that beautiful?
Well, Vancouver's got a lot of problems, but it is basically beautiful. It's nestled in a bay. It's got mountains around it. It's well connected. It's a lovely part of the world. You get all sorts of different geography around it and whatever. But our weather, if we had blue skies, even if we're cold, it would be lovely.
If the sun was shining.
If the sun was shining, but it's not. Will it? Here's Catherine Chalk.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be largely dry for most of us today, but we'll start to see some snow in Scotland into Tuesday. Chilly, but turning milder by midweek. So through the rest of this morning, then we hold on to plenty of brightness across the southeast of England. Cloudier out towards the west with some outbreaks of rain that will eventually reach Northern Ireland later. Otherwise, we'll have some showers just affecting Orkney. Otherwise, for most of us, it is a dry day out there. Still chilly, especially in the east underneath the cloud. Temperatures here struggling at 4 to 5 degrees, but in towards the west, 8 to 10, and still quite breezy here too. So as we go through Monday evening and overnight across Scotland, actually it's a largely dry evening to come. There are still some showers just affecting Orkney and maybe into Shetland later, but a damp end to the day across Northern Ireland with heavy spells of rain moving through. So take care during rush hour. There could be some spray on the roads. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a largely dry evening to end the day. So as we go through Monday night into Tuesday, the rain across Northern Ireland will continue to push its way north and eastwards, and where it meets the cold air across Scotland, that's where we could see the risk of freezing rain, but also some heavy snow as well. So take care if you are travelling through the early hours. Drier further towards the south and east, temperatures holding up at around 1 or 2 degrees. So as we start Tuesday morning across Scotland, it's an unsettled start with outbreaks of rain, snow and possibly freezing rain. That will move its way north and eastward, generally easing through the day. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, we'll see hazy spells of sunshine, cloudier out towards Northern Ireland, but otherwise temperatures just slightly milder this time at around 7 to even 10 degrees. Bye-bye for now.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm just reading here that the River Thames transitions from saltwater to freshwater at Teddington Loch.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
That's over the west, isn't it?
Not a lot of people know that. Just sort of
Well, I didn't until right now.
Until right now. And what difference does it make? So salt water's come from the sea, it's made its way upstream, then it gets to Teddington and it meets all the fresh water coming down, or as fresh as it can be. Yeah, very good.
Then heads into London, very nice.
Very nice. Great British giveaway.
That's very nice too.
OK, you got that info for nothing there. You could get this for nothing as well. An iPhone shopping vouchers, £10,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We were talking about dancing in the kitchen a little bit earlier on, weren't we? It's meant to be a recommended weekly exercise if you can dance in the kitchen for just 20 minutes a day when you're cooking your dinner. Mariette has been in touch saying, good morning, Ellie and Eamonn. I don't have a video of me dancing in the kitchen, but it is a regular activity for me and my friend. They bought me this chopping board just this last Christmas. I don't just do it for the exercise. I put the music on and then I have to have a dance. Have a great day. Love, Carol.
I think it's good mentally to unwind.
It's good for your mental health, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just good. As you said, that line of Richard, dancing on the ceiling is beautiful.
Dancing on the ceiling, all night long.
Blame it on the boogie.
Blame it on the boogie is another great one. Just put your classics on, have a little boogie, and you can make dinner. It's the best multitasking.
What are you dancing to this morning? Let us know. Up next on the programme, we're talking about Jemima Begin. Remember her? 10 years since she fled Britain.
Yeah, and she's still fighting to re-enter Britain as well. Let's have a listen to her explanation.
I mean, the thing with radicalisation is there's not one way that someone gets radicalised. It depends on their situation and the way.
So your friend's situation, how did that happen?
It was online mostly.
We're going to be chatting with a filmmaker who lived with her, or was spending a lot of time with her, for over a year. We're going to be talking to him next.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As we kick off 2025, many of us might be thinking about a bit of a wardrobe refresh, especially if you're over 50 and you feel like the high street doesn't quite cater to you.
Indeed. That's where our next guest, Mel Tillett, comes in. She's in the studio with us now.
Mel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. That you are this accidental influencer. I love that you said that's the first time.
Yeah, it is. That's the first time I've heard it.
You can have that
yes,
for free on
thank
TV.
you so much. It's quite true.
Tell us about your following. Obviously, an influencer that many people might typically think of would be someone in their teens, someone in their 20s, someone who's particularly social media savvy, using TikTok. Talk to us about your brand of influencer.
Well, our influencer, my kind of influence is over the older age group, the over 50s. For my business, I do a lot of live videos. I do them early in the morning at 7:30, which sounds ridiculous, but I know my ladies are up and about at that time having a cup of coffee or whatever that might be. And just being honest about day-to-day life. So my dogs are running about, my grandchildren are even sometimes in them, one thing and another. So it's just been purely by accident that I've got this really nice, loyal following, and I get lovely messages off ladies. I'll do things like, I'll tell them when I'm going for a mammogram, and I'll say, come on, everybody go for your mammogram.
That's brilliant.
All sort of health-conscious things. I've been a lot heavier than I am now, and I've slimmed down and lost some weight. I've been talking about that journey as well. And then ladies will ask me questions on the videos, and we chat about all sorts of different things. And now I'm getting messages every day, and people are loving the clothing ranges that we do. Yeah, and it's just, I started off as a business, that's purely what I did, but it's turned out into this other, I get recognised places I go now, which is really weird.
It must be a huge benefit to your business as well.
We employ around about 50 people.
Wow.
And I'm quite open to my audience and saying, you know, while ever you keep buying offers, while ever you're loving our products and our clothing, you're keeping 50 people in jobs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, 10 years ago today, Shamima Begum fled England to join ISIS.
Yes, the then 15-year-old left with two friends, leading to an international hunt for the three schoolgirls.
In February 2019, her British citizenship was revoked. A plea for the British public's forgiveness and an appeal on the decision were disapproved last year.
Well, joining us now is the man who spent over a year with the infamous ISIS bride to get to the bottom of why she abandoned Britain. Let's speak to the filmmaker Andrew Drury. Good to see you this morning, Andrew. And you spent over a year with Shamima Begum, didn't you? How did you find her as a person?
It was actually over 2 years I spent with her. I interviewed her, I think, 7 times. At the beginning, because she's very clever, she's a very manipulative girl. I don't know if that's something she was trained. I actually felt sorry for her. But then by the 2 years had passed, I ended up despising her. I saw through her, looking in the eyes, so I didn't see a nice person. I didn't see anybody that was, you know, regretful for anything she did. So my opinion changed during that 2 years. I think that it can take that long to actually know somebody.
Do you think she was putting on an act for you? She wasn't genuine?
She puts on an act for everybody that meets her. She'll say what she thinks is required. So that's what she is. She's a good actress.
But here's the thing, Andrew. Here's the thing. She has to act, hasn't she? Or else she would never get back to Britain. So, you know, I understand what you're saying. Totally get it, mate. But if you're saying that she was lying or it was an act, I would say to you, what was her choice? If she didn't lie, she was never coming home.
I don't think a choice really matters, does it? She left our country to join Islamic State. And during that period of time, she never once tried to escape. Not once. So she was happy there. I mean, this is a death cult. I mean, the terror that caused upon the Syrian people is immense. So does it really matter how she feels and what she thinks? She doesn't deserve to come back.
Andrew, please just forgive me here. We've got to cut across you. We're going live to... We'll come back to you in a second, sorry, but these are live pictures from Saudi Arabia. That's Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, arriving in Saudi Arabia for the opening of those tentative peace talks between America and Russia.
Yes, he's going to meet Russian officials in Saudi Arabia alongside Mike Waltz, who is Trump's national security advisor, and also the White House Middle East envoy is going to be there as well. It's not immediately clear at this point who they're going to meet from Russia, but this is significant because this is the first time that there have been high-level, in-person discussions between Russia and the US. So it is meant to precede a meeting between President Trump and President Putin as well. So that's Marco Rubio arriving in Saudi Arabia.
Well, there's a lot of controversy about these talks taking place, but at least something is happening, something that may break the deadlock. Let's go back now to Andrew Drury, filmmaker who spent a year with Shamima Begum on this. Andrew, tell me about your film. What were you trying to achieve with your film? I mean, it was quite brave, it was quite different. The very fact that no one else had that access as well. What did you think you were going to get from the film?
Well, the film wasn't actually about her. The film was about probably the suffering of the people in Syria. And I interviewed her on a day off. So it was only kind of... So I didn't want to try and get anything out of her, but everybody, the whole news wanted to get hold of her and note she wasn't interested in talking. So it was a bit of an achievement, really. And after meeting her first, I wanted to just say hello, goodbye, and I'm off. But then I found her very complex and I found her very interesting. I found a whole story. I mean, because we lived that story, didn't we, about seeing those three girls leave, the death of her children. So I just found it very interesting. And then many channels asked me to go back and re-interview her and interview her and interview her. And because of that process, I got to really know her. I don't think there's anybody knows her more than me. I actually really do know what she's like. And I know what she did.
And what did she tell you about why she decided to leave Britain? What was the appeal to go and join ISIS?
She didn't have one. That's the funny thing about it. And people say, oh, she was the innocent girl, the other two, or the one that went before. Shamima that went before was the influencer, but it was her. She actually just enjoyed the thought of living in Islamic State, as simple as that. That was her character. That's what she wanted. There's nothing more to it than that.
But look how it's turned out. What is her future? What could possibly happen to her from here on in? And bear in mind, she's still only 25.
I think, honestly, this is her closest to getting home, because now the Assad regime have now broken down and there's a new regime in. The SDF now are concerned and say, because I think Trump said that he wants to get rid of the Syrian forces. There's 2,000 soldiers there and we should take our prisoners back. So my presumption is she could get released anyway, really soon, because they'll empty the doors to the prison.
What was that refugee camp like as an experience? I don't know if you saw the clips over the weekend that were going viral. An American news crew went into Al-Hol refugee camp in Syria, and they were, well, let's just say they were young children there making very threatening signs towards this Western TV crew. It does make you wonder whether that is a ticking time bomb in terms of the young people that have grown up in these camps.
I can answer that. I mean, I've been in Al-Hol, which is predominantly, sort of families and that. But in Al Roj, where Shamima is, when I first went there, the kids were only small, 1.5, 2, big group of kids running around, wanted to hold your hand, wanted to play with you. Now, I think the last time I went there, they're throwing rocks at me. So we had to go with protective equipment for our own security, because rocks are ahead. So, no change. The children in there are the innocent, were the innocent. They haven't committed anything. So different. My feelings are different for them than they are the adults.
So, Andrew, as I asked before, what happens next? I mean, if it was up to you, would you permit her back into the country?
Not a chance.
Why?
What she represented. I mean, and what she committed. Remember, she didn't commit crime. Well, she did against the Western world. But remember all those poor Syrian people? She didn't go there and just sort of, like they say, make bread or make food for the fighters coming home, which is bad enough herself. There is proof that she sewed suicide vests and she was in part of the religious priests. So think about these poor victims that are in Syria now, that she probably persecuted, her hatred upon them. She needs to do time there and life probably in Syria. I don't want her back. Do you want her back?
Wow. You've given the answer there. Amazing. Andrew, that very interesting, great insight for a lot of people there. And thanks for lending it to us today. We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank
you very much.
Interesting.
I
Very,
find
very interesting.
Andrew fascinating because, like he says, he knows her better than anyone.
Yeah.
Interviewed her 7 times and believes the whole thing was an act. She's an actress, he says.
If I had my way, I wouldn't allow Paul Coit in the country, but it's out of my hands that he's here.
He's going to be right here, sat next to you.
Yeah, presenting the sport next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Angus, the A92 is closed in both directions over Montrose Bridge for an investigation, causing delays. Train services aren't running between Beverley and Scarborough because of a signalling problem at Bridlington. There's also a reduced service between Beverley and Hull. The M25 in Essex is blocked anti-clockwise by an accident just before junction 29 for the A127, causing queues for a good couple of miles towards there. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking over half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. Gatwick Express train services have been stopped because of a signalling problem at Balham, with Southern reporting some cancelled trains between Victoria and Gatwick Airport, and also between Watford Junction and Clapham Junction. The M3 in Hampshire's partly blocked northbound, where a vehicle caught fire between junctions 9 and 8 from Winchester to the A303.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Let's get the bad news out of the way first, Paul. Morning.
Good news, depending on which side you're on.
I think it's okay. Spurs 1, Manchester United 0. Is that it? Should we do it?
That's
leave it
it,
there?
thank
Let's
you.
leave it there. We're done. We've talked about it.
Dull game.
Yeah. It was. It was a dull game. Second time that Spurs, by the way, they've won 2 in a row, and the last time they did that was against the same teams, Brentford and then Manchester United. How about that? It was the last time they won 2 in a row. Liverpool beat Wolves 2-1. They're staying top. Another one, Wolves did pretty well, but Wolves have, it's just not good enough, really. But then again, you go into Anfield, what do you expect? 2-1 to Liverpool. They weren't at their best, but they
Paul,
were
we're
okay.
getting a lot of reaction in this morning from the ice hockey.
I loved
showed
it. I'm
earlier.
sorry, I love it.
But it's people who want to see the goals or the action or anything.
Yeah.
They want to see this, right? Tell us what we're going to see.
Right, let me a brief bit. 4 Nations tournament, Canada versus USA. There's a bit of this beef between Canada and the USA. We know that because of what Donald Trump had said about making Canada the next state of America. Hasn't gone down well with the Canadians. So the 2 national teams were playing in Montreal over the weekend. And anyway, there were boos the moment the American national anthem began. And there was a few fights. Have a look at this. See what you think. Right, this is from the very start of the match. The very start of the match. 9 seconds in, the first punch-up begins. So they've not even played any ice hockey. Look at this.
So the gloves are off.
The gloves are off.
The helmets will come off soon.
Yeah.
Matthew Tkachuk of the USA.
Really, look at that, really.
Brandon Hagel
really
of Canada.
punching there.
Yeah,
they really are. But look, you've got the
punches.
referees either side. They're thinking, I'm not going in. If you want to go in, do you want to go in? I'm not going to do anything.
To pull them off each other.
I think their job is actually to referee the match,
well,
not
yes,
really
but
anything to do
if
with...
If a fight breaks out on the ice, you'd think they'd be pulling them
But the
apart.
thing is, that's what happens. That's why a lot of people go to ice hockey, because they love it. They
Do we
love
know
all
what
that.
the offence was? Do we know, what was the foul? What got his coat up?
I don't think it was. I honestly don't, Eamonn. I think it was just needle between the two of them.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing, in the middle of the fight, an ice hockey match broke out. And that's really... There was!
No.
And America ended up winning 3-1, so that's what it was all about.
Anything the Americans and Canadians can do, the Czechs can do better. So this is... to explain this, we've got Czech history and winter sports
I
combining.
just like this. I always imagine if I go skiing, it'll be with wooden skis and a little feather in the side of the hat like David Niven in the Pink Panther. Let's have a look at this. This is in the Czech Republic. They do this every year. It's the 100th anniversary of skiing coming to the Czech Republic.
Ooh.
See, there we are.
Women
period dress.
skiing in dresses.
I mean, if you told me that was filmed from 1880, I'd believe you.
Yeah. But there we are. That's all it is. Proper... none of this ski wear. Jumpers,
poles.
scarves, woolly hats, wooden skis, poles and lovely hats. And there we are. And if I'm going to go skiing, that's how I'd like to be dressed.
All right,
Plus
there we go.
fours as well. Very
Paul,
nice.
thank you very much indeed. Still to come, we've got making the stories in the papers with Dawn and Chris Akabusi. Here are Europe's top holiday destinations if you're looking for a bit of sunshine.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, it's a mixed picture out there across Europe. Sunny spells for many, but also some outbreaks of rain, but turning colder in Greece. So there are some showers across Madeira and the Canary Islands, but brighter spells across much of Spain and into Italy, with a few showers around. But across Greece, we'll start to see temperatures falling away. So actually, as we head into the week, especially Thursday and Friday, it is going to be turning much colder, with temperatures really struggling here down in the single figures.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
5 years ago now, we developed this campaign called Regifting Beauty. And Regifting Beauty is about giving back to those that are in less fortunate situations than the majority of us. And I was coming across people that were receiving gifts at Christmas. You know how many gifts we receive? Gift sets, items, bath bombs, all of these things that we don't necessarily use. For myself, they sit in the bathroom cupboard all year round. So I was thinking of a way how we can make that better, put that to better purpose. And we developed this campaign 5 years ago called Regifting Beauty. And it's where people can donate unwanted toiletries, sanitary items, skincare, perfumes. And we work with different charities around the country, and they will re-gift them to survivors of domestic abuse. And for years now, it's only really been focused around women. There hasn't really been a male focus. So Ben and I were having conversations, and we were thinking, well, and I was getting comments throughout the years of doing it, saying, why are men excluded from this? Surely it should be applicable to men too. I mean, in the UK, over 700,000 men are suffering with domestic abuse on an annual basis. And a lot of that goes unreported. And there's over 2 million people in the UK that do suffer from some form of domestic abuse, be it physical or psychological, and it's an important topic that we should be discussing. So this campaign is about providing something that may seem trivial, but it restores some level of dignity. And I think that's so important when survivors are just trying to regain aspects of their life. Something so small that maybe sitting in your bathroom cupboard that you're not using could go to such better use. So this year we're launching the Regifting Beauty, the Turnaround Edition, about turning around moments in life and allowing people to have those turnaround moments, which also plays on Ben's, song, Turnaround.
Gotta turn
it fits in nicely with that.
Which I'll be on with you.
For the remix,
It's all fitting in nicely, isn't it?
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Dawn Neeson and Chris Akabusi, stories that are getting them hot under the collar today. And to use Chris's own words, as regards the drug story in tennis, he just ain't buying it. Why not?
Yeah, well, it's just inconceivable that you've got a gash... Well, personally speaking, inconceivable that you've got a gash in your leg and then the medical team rub an anabolic steroid over that gash and it gets into your system to such a degree that you fail a drug test.
Now who are we talking about?
Yannick Sinner, the number one golfer... not golfer, sorry.
You are obsessed with golf. It has to be said.
Sorry, we were talking about golf earlier on.
No, but do you know why he did that? You actually feel very strongly about this, right? That Sinner has copped a plea or taken a deal on this. 1 minute he's found not innocent, it's objected to, and then he's found guilty.
Yes, it was found guilty. And WADA, the World Anti-Doping Association, they've actually done some sort of deal with him to say that, OK, he doesn't have to have a 2-year ban or whatever. He's given 3 months, and the 3 months ban out of competition when there is no competitions in the sport. But my concern is, Daniel Medvedev, also a top tennis player, says this is good for tennis. No, it's bad for the sport. I just cannot...
Well, it sets precedent.
It does, and it's just inconceivable. I mean, OK, I've been retired for 30 years, but there was zero tolerance in my day. It's regardless of how you think it got there. If it's in your system, you are responsible for your body. And it's just... I mean, it can open...
How did it get into Sinner's body?
Well, apparently he has a massage and the steroid was on the cream that was massaged into his leg, and that's how it got into his body. I mean, I just don't get it.
OK.
Just sound a bit like,
Yeah.
Dog ate my homework.
Well, we're talking about vinyls in the last hour, weren't we? But apparently youngsters now also are reviving printed photographs.
Yeah, I love this story. And it's got a lot of reaction as well from viewers who are loving the nostalgia. And this is sort of like printing photographs are making a comeback thanks to Young Enthusiasts' new survey. And it's found that 43% of those aged between 18 and 27, the dreaded Generation Z, print pictures around 4 times a year, which is double the amount of us older generations. It's
very organised with them, I think.
It is. It's very
been
organised
able
for a start.
to do it. I mean, I've got lots of things on my phone and whatever it is, and I used to always do photographic albums, and then I did those Apple print-out albums, and then Apple stopped doing them, and now I really find it difficult to find somebody who will do them for me, but I think they need to be done.
Yes. We've lost the art of making albums.
I do it all the time. Every time we have a special holiday, I buy the albums, I get them printed out in a high street store, and I put the albums and I write little captions and I put receipts and all of that sort of stuff in there. And I've been doing it for decades. Yeah.
And also like back in the day, the photographs you kept and put in an album were really, really special.
Yes.
But now I've got so much on my phone. I would say 90%.
How many have you got? Go on, how many have you got on your phone?
Well, not my phone, my iPad. My iPad's not here.
There'll be
thousands. And I never ever look at them.
Yeah.
I never ever look at them.
But you see, when we think back to when we were young, there's so few of them, and even less from my parents, whatever.
Yeah.
I look at black and white pictures my parents have for me. they actually, I remember they had to borrow somebody's camera to take pictures. They hadn't even got a camera for it. But in my own case, you got 12 or 24 options of taking a picture. How many of those came out well? 3 or 4 off that, which you then would have kept and placed in.
But you used to send them off and you used to wait and go, oh, I wonder what those pictures are like. And now you take a picture and you literally look on your phone and it's like...
Delete, move on.
And also I find, like, so I've got my albums and they go back like 50 years, and every now and again, you do pick one out, and you the nostalgia.
And they're so lovely to go through. Together.
Absolutely amazing, and they bring back the experience of being in the moment as you reflect.
I look at the moment and I think it was like yesterday.
Yeah,
I thought it was so long ago.
really.
It's like yesterday, and what you would give to be back in that time.
Well, the first thing we always say is, oh my God, don't you look young in that one? And
because I was.
Well, it was 40 years ago. I was quite young then.
But that's very, very true as well. Is that actually, though, like when you're 40, you think you're old, and then you're 50 and you look back, mate, you're so young. And then you get to 60, you think you're old. Then you see your 50th birthday, mate, you are so young. So I'm hoping when I get to 70, 80, I look back, mate, you're in great shape.
This lady has preserved so well because she first interviewed me 40 years ago.
Oh my God, absolutely. I've still got the picture. I have still got that picture.
Have you really?
Have you? We need to get that up.
But that is amazing. But I don't think you've changed much in that time.
And nor have you.
No.
It's a bit of a absolutely.
Right, let's go to what we do next. We've done the meds.
We do pubs.
Pubs, yes, good idea.
Let's go to the pub. Good idea.
Well, ding, ding, last orders. I mean, gosh, again, when I was a young person, 16, 17, 18, you couldn't wait to get into a pub. It was the hub of the community, integration of the older generation with the younger generation. Passing on information, what's happening on the ground. Well, right here, right now, we're into a scenario where, because of the ever increasing burdens that are putting onto pubs, the rent increases, mortgage increases, the national insurance increases, the reduction in business rates, discounts. There's 300 pubs a year are shutting down.
That is incredible. It's disgraceful, actually.
Well,
I don't even drink, and I think it's disgraceful. I know the value of a pub in the community. Before we do that, can somebody give me camera 5 or whatever? Just frame up in this picture. Just whatever way we could get. Hold it towards 3, and we'll see what we can get.
Wow, look at those people.
I do have to say to you, Dawn Neeson, who hasn't changed a bit, and me.
Neither of you changed a dot.
Oh my God, my hair, everything.
And his eyesight is already going.
That was the year. There was 1993, 4.
Yeah,
early
90s, very early 90s.
You should be really, really proud how well you look. God, I was good looking, wasn't I?
Still are, Eamonn Holmes.
Ellie's supposed to say that, not you, mate.
Guys, thanks very much indeed. Lovely trip down memory lane with you both this morning. Appreciate it. Have yourselves a good day.
Thank you very much, you two. And if you still make photo albums, do let us know. gbnews.com/yoursay. Let's get a check on the weather now, shall we? With Catherine Chalk, 'cause it's going to be a chilly one.
Woo! A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be largely dry for most of us today, but we'll start to see some snow in Scotland into Tuesday. Chilly, but turning milder by midweek. So through the rest of this morning, then we hold on to plenty of brightness across the southeast of England. Cloudier out towards the west with some outbreaks of rain that will eventually reach Northern Ireland later. Otherwise, we'll have some showers just affecting Orkney. Otherwise, for most of us, it is a dry day out there. Still chilly, especially in the east underneath the cloud. Temperatures here struggling at 4 to 5 degrees, but in towards the west, 8 to 10, and still quite breezy here too. So as we go through Monday evening and overnight across Scotland, actually it's a largely dry evening to come. There are still some showers just affecting Orkney and maybe into Shetland later, but a damp end to the day across Northern Ireland with heavy spells of rain moving through. So take care during rush hour. There could be some spray on the roads. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a largely dry evening to end the day. So as we go through Monday night into Tuesday, the rain across Northern Ireland will continue to push its way north and eastwards, and where it meets the cold air across Scotland, that's where we could see the risk of freezing rain, but also some heavy snow as well. So take care if you are travelling through the early hours. Drier further towards the south and east, temperatures holding up at around 1 or 2 degrees. So as we start Tuesday morning then across Scotland, it's an unsettled start with outbreaks of rain, snow and possibly freezing rain. That will move its way north and eastward, generally easing through the day. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, we'll see hazy spells of sunshine, cloudier out towards Northern Ireland, but otherwise temperatures just slightly milder this time at around 7 to even 10 degrees. Bye-bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M8 in Glasgow is partly blocked westbound at junction 22 for the M74, where a digger has fallen off a trailer, causing delays. Train services are suspended between Bridlington and Scarborough because of a signalling problem. The M56 in Cheshire is blocked westbound. Someone's broken down just after junction 11 at Preston Brook, causing queues. In Oxfordshire, the A420 is closed eastbound from Shrivenham to Watchfield after an accident. In London, the South Circular is closed westbound off the A20 between Eltham and Lee after an accident caused by a burst water main, with the water turning to ice. There are delays towards there, and as you divert, Gatwick Express train services are suspended because of a signalling problem. Hampshire, the A339 is closed south of Headley because of ice, and in East Sussex, the A21 is partly blocked by an accident at Flimwell.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good morning. Could British troops soon be on the ground in Ukraine?
Well, the Prime Minister has announced he is ready to deploy them to safeguard against Russia.
As he heads to Paris to meet European allies after a wake-up call from Vice President J.D. Vance.
We'll be asking the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, very, very shortly if Labour is too willing to risk the lives of armed forces in just a few minutes.
Well, any troops on the ground would be peacekeeping forces, but even on a peacekeeping capacity, it would be extremely dangerous in such a volatile part of the world.
A night of great British cinema at the BAFTAs, with Warwick Davis paying a touching tribute to his late wife during his acceptance speech.
I'd like to dedicate and thank my wonderful wife, Sammy, who died almost a year ago.
Yes, it was a good night for The Brutalist and Conclave, but not such a good night for the likes of Demi Moore and a complete unknown. I'll have the latest later.
10 years ago today, since Shamima Begum fled England to join ISIS. Earlier we spoke to the man who spent over a year with her, filming her.
About these poor victims that are in Syria now, that she probably persecuted, her hatred upon them. She needs to do time then, life probably in Syria. I don't want her back. Do you want her back?
Hello, it's largely dry for most of us through today, but there is some snow affecting Scotland later. I have all the details coming up shortly.
Very good to see you on this Monday morning. This is GB News Breakfast. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Ellie Costello. Loads of you getting in touch on Shamima Begum. We're talking to the filmmaker Andrew Drury, who spent 2 years with her, interviewing her 7 times. Tom says, I was so expecting that filmmaker to say that Begum should be allowed to return to the UK. Instead, he said, not a chance.
He did.
How refreshing. I'm surprised.
Very good.
Good one from Sharif as well.
I am Muslim, says Sharif. I don't believe she should return. She gives a lot of us trying our best a bad name, a disgrace to our community. Now, as regards the BAFTAs as well, Una, you sound Irish, Una, sorry, an Irish name. She says, I've seen both Conclave and The Brutalist, which won 4 BAFTAs each. Both films were absolutely boring.
Oh, no.
And slow. Fell asleep in both films. You see, the thing is, sometimes, Alex, when you get one of these award-winning films, they're very long.
They are.
And length can be a problem. Now, I would intend, I'll not go and see The Brutalist because it would just upset me too much, but I will go and see Conclave.
Well, look, the appealing thing, if that's your sort of approach to cinema, is The Brutalist has gone old school and it has an interval in the middle. So if
really,
yeah, so
I like that.
Yeah.
What do you mean you like that? That means it's got to be at least.
Gives me a chance to go to the loo.
Well, yeah, but it shouldn't be 3 hours. Nothing should be longer than a game of football. Nothing should be longer than 90 minutes. Not a pantomime, not a film.
But
whatever.
3 hours isn't. If you can watch a film for 2, you can watch a film for 3.
Is Brutalist 3 hours? Is that what you're reckoning?
Brutalist, I think it just comes in just under.
Yeah.
It's very long for a film.
It is a long time, but if you can break it up with the interval.
Yeah, that's true. But don't you find with these films that do well at the BAFTAs and the Oscars, often if the board or the committee really like them, among the general public it might not be so popular?
Yeah, well, like our viewers say, and Emilia Perez, just to hark back to it, has been panned. It's been acclaimed by reviewers, but on fan sites like Rotten Tomatoes and where people submit their own reviews, they don't like it.
The paying public. Funny, we were just talking about the length of films there, and yet you brought it back to me. When I was young and you went to the cinema, you watched 2 films.
Did you?
That's what you paid. You paid your ticket and you went in 3/4 of the way through one film, maybe, and you might have watched that, and then there was an intermission, and then the second film came on. There was the A picture and the B picture. And then what are you looking at me for? You're surely old enough to.
Because it's like you're speaking a foreign language. I'm joking.
No,
how does that work?
Well, basically, you paid your money on a Saturday or whatever day it was, and there was always 2 pictures, and that's why you hear about it was a B movie, because B movies were the second.
Oh, okay, I've heard that. Okay.
Yeah.
So rather than doing, because there was a big thing about Barbie and Oppenheimer and Barbenheimer, where people would pay to watch 2 different films on the same day. It was just the norm.
Was it 2 for 1? Would you just pay for 1 and get to see 2?
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
Oh, they should bring that back.
That was a good deal, but
they should bring that back.
Other competition today. Anyone else remember that? Let us know today. Alex will be back shortly.
Now to our top story this morning, and Sir Keir Starmer says he's ready and willing to send British troops into Ukraine.
So he's set to arrive in Paris later today. This is a big summit. Other European leaders are joining this, and maybe that was his thing to say. Mark White joins us now in the studio, and to maybe get behind this and think what is What is he getting at? He's not... You know, the reason I'm saying this to Mark, I don't for one second believe Starmer would send British troops into any sort of conflict or anything that was remotely like conflict. So what would the role be?
Yes, not a conflict. That's not going to happen with any European troops. It would be in the event of a ceasefire or some kind of a cessation of hostilities where we could see then European and non-European forces going in there. But it would take a ginormous effort. I mean, we're talking at least 100,000 troops that would be required as part of this peacekeeping force, because it's such a massive border that we're talking about, all the way down eastern into southern Ukraine as well. We should say, incidentally, that Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, has just arrived in Saudi Arabia. We have latest pictures of him getting off the plane in Saudi Arabia for what are preliminary talks. Now, a great deal of concern and discontent, I think, among some Europeans about the fact that they're not included in these talks. Interestingly, listening to Fred Fleitz, a former Trump official in his National Security Council the first time round, saying that the Europeans here are throwing a temper tantrum with this meeting that's taken place in Paris, that really, you know, at the end of the day, what these are exploratory talks with Russia. The Europeans and the US never having spoken to Russia in any meaningful way since that invasion now some 3 years ago. So this is an opportunity for them not to begin negotiations as such, but to get the lay of the land, what the red lines might be, so that they can then discuss a more formal approach to the negotiations, at which point, of course, the Ukrainians would be involved, the Europeans would be involved in a more limited capacity.
But the Europeans must be flustered in some way because this emergency summit in Paris, and I suppose they're also going to be talking about defence spending, which Donald Trump wants countries to be paying more like 5% of GDP, and we haven't even yet got the path to 2.5.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The US Vice President J.D. Vance and the Defence Secretary threw metaphorical hand grenades right into Europe with their speeches last week there, where they weren't just talking about the need to up the spend of these European countries in terms of their defence, but also talking about the direction of travel for these European governments and what they see as an erosion of democracy in Europe. So, you know, they're smarting from that, there's no doubt, and very concerned about what might be coming down the road. Not that they haven't known that a second Trump government was going to be potentially problematic for them. But the big issue is really what they're going to do about their own defence. The Trump administration have made it very clear that Europe needs to dig deeper into its pockets and not just rely on the Americans to provide the bulk of the forces, the bulk of the funding for Ukraine, etc., that they've got to do more. So let's see what they decide to do in terms of more aid for Ukraine, more spending on their own armed forces. But it comes at a difficult time, not just for the UK, but other European countries in terms of their own finances.
OK. Mark, got to leave it there. Thanks for the update. Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. The weather forecast. Let's have a look at the picture for the day ahead.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British Giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast with Eamonn and Ellie. The time is 13 minutes past 9, and our top story today is Sir Keir Starmer saying he's ready and willing to send British troops into Ukraine. So let's speak now to Health Secretary Wes Streeting, who joins us this morning. Good to see you this morning, Mr. Streeting. And let's start there, shall we, with our top stories. Keir Starmer says he's ready and willing to send British troops to Ukraine. Obviously, people very nervous about that headline. It's a volatile part of the world, a very dangerous assignment for British men and women. Would you really risk their lives in this way?
Well, no Prime Minister or government takes the deployment of British servicemen and women lightly. What the Prime Minister is doing is rightly preparing for a scenario in which President Trump's initiative to end the war in Ukraine is successful, and we need to secure the peace, because we should be in no doubt that Ukraine's front line is Britain's front line. We have got an imperialist, expansionist Russian president who has been a threat to this country's national security before, remains an ongoing threat to this country's national security, and has shown his willingness to invade sovereign territories of other European countries. So as we work together with our friends in America and across Europe, and crucially President Zelensky and the Ukrainians themselves, it's really important that we are preparing for a scenario in which a peace deal has been agreed, and we are working with our allies to secure that peace and deter any future Russian aggression.
In terms of that preparation, will you be spending more on defence then? Because we keep being promised this pathway to 2.5% of GDP, and that still hasn't been laid out. And now there's talk and pressure from around the world of actually nearer to 5% of GDP being spent on defence. What are Labour's plans?
Well, regardless of what's agreed with our allies in relation to Ukraine, this government came in with a clear commitment and conviction that we need to get defence spending to 2.5% of GDP, both to redress the underinvestment in our armed forces we've had for more than a decade under our Conservative predecessors, but also to equip Britain to withstand emerging and future threats to our national security in a volatile and changing world. And so that's the context in which the Prime Minister asked George Robertson, who, as well as being a former Labour Defence Secretary, is also a former Secretary General of NATO, to conduct our strategic defence review. And the outcome of that review will be feeding into the Chancellor's announcements at the spending review and throughout the decisions she takes throughout this Parliament. We don't doubt there are real pressures arising as a result, and in fact, right across the board, we've got real pressures on our public finances. That's why, frankly, in the last 7 months, we've had to take some decisions that have been unpopular because Britain was left in a massive hole. We've taken decisions with a view to getting Britain out of that hole, and in recognition that whether it's the scale of the crisis in our NHS, the pressures on defence, or indeed a wide range of other pressures, including the pressures families are feeling in their pockets, we've got a hell of a job on our hands. That's the job we were elected to do, and as we're announcing today on the NHS, we are delivering on our promises, but there's still a mountain to climb.
Yeah, we're going to talk to you about that in just a moment. Just wanted to ask you about the Chagos Island deal. Could cost anything between £9 billion to £18 billion. The cost is unclear. But we have heard this morning that the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister of Mauritius, the orchestrator of the Chagos Islands deal, has been arrested and has appeared in court in connection with money laundering. And you've got the likes of Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philps saying this is a huge question mark over this proposal now. How do we know that this money, the £18 billion potentially, is going to be, or could it be used for personal gain instead? We're giving billions away to a territory that is ours and we're using it to rent. It just seems like a very bad deal from the start, does it not?
Well, on this issue of the Chagos Islands, the Conservatives have taken themselves to dizzying new heights of hypocrisy. These were negotiations that began under a Conservative government, were well advanced under a Conservative government, and the moment the voters changed the government, the Conservatives apparently changed all of their convictions and now want to suggest that this was a sort of Labour initiative. The situation concerning Chagos is complex. The islands are critical for our national security, for our American allies and for Western defence and security. That's the context in which negotiations under Conservative and Labour-led governments have been taking place. I've got no further update to offer you this morning about the status of those negotiations, but that is the context in which Labour ministers have been engaging in good faith, and I dare say our Conservative predecessors engaged in good faith until they lost the election and apparently lost their memories at the same time.
Wes, we're going to talk about the NHS now. This is your baby, and I know from talking to you, it's something you feel very passionate about. And you must be absolutely delighted that we're talking about you've been able to deliver ahead of time 2 million extra appointments. How on earth did you do that?
Well, Eamonn, I am delighted to be able to report to your viewers that we've delivered on that first step. 2 million more appointments that we promised a year, delivered 7 months early, and these are appointments for planned operations, procedures, test scans, those sorts of hospital-related appointments. But I also want your viewers to know at the same time we're not doing victory laps today. There are still enormous challenges in the NHS. Waiting lists are still far too high. People still struggle to get GP and dentist appointments, for example. So a lot done, a hell of a lot more to do. And we've done it through a combination of investment and reform, which is the same approach we're going to take across the board. So I hope that at a time when people are cynical about politics and politicians, probably cynical about Government with a big G as well as a small g, this government and government in general, I hope this at least reassures people we are delivering on our promises, we're getting the NHS moving in the right direction, but a lot done, a hell of a lot more to do.
And I think, you know, we should all sit back and think things. I think often people look at the NHS and they think it'll always be like that. Things won't change. You're showing things can change. Investment, manpower at this as well. So congratulations. I'd like to talk more, but we're out of time, Wes. And thank you. Just good recognition for that. Maybe we'll talk about it again sometime in the future. Thank you very much
Definitely.
indeed. Thank you.
Thanks, Eamonn.
Now, Doctor Who star David Tennant hosted a star-studded night at the BAFTAs last night. Alex Davies was there for us. Alex, what was the night like on the red carpet?
It was, do you know what, quite a non-eventful one, to be honest with you. It was no real eye-catching ones. Demi Moore stepped out in quite a nice sequence.
Pamela Anderson, is that not eye-catching?
Yes, but...
hard to please, is that?
Compared to some of the red carpets that we've had this award season, this was rather subdued. Demi Moore wore like quite a nice sequined number to the red carpet. Pamela Anderson kept up her trend of going makeup-free, and she still looked fantastic. There was quite a common trend amongst most of the attendees to wear black. For some reason, I'm not entirely sure why. It wasn't exactly a dress code. But there were also some surprise arrivals. Timothée Chalamet, who was nominated for A Complete Unknown, he turned up with his partner Kylie Jenner from Keeping Up with the Kardashians, as I'm sure you are fully clued up on.
He's across it. I was filling him in today.
I didn't know who she was, and she's in the a lot of the papers today, and she looks very graceful, very elegant, very lovely.
Yeah, she does. She wasn't attention seeker or anything.
Incidentally.
No, that is Timothée Chalamet.
And who's he?
He's the one who played Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's got good reviews.
It's got very good reviews, and he was up for the awards. Sadly, it went home empty-handed last night. It didn't win a single thing. But he has been widely touted for awards glory. It was sort of, I don't know whether it's just my old cynical nature, it was quite a damning indictment on the fact that there was quite a lot of buzz that the biggest noise was about Molly May Hague from Love Island turning up on the red carpet. You've got all these very talented Hollywood A-listers, but there was a lot of noise because Molly May turned up. She's got this new Amazon documentary. She's the one who dated Tommy Fury.
No one invites us, Ellie.
I know.
Yeah, but they invite Molly May, and then they don't get the right headlines. Alex, thank you very much. You did a good job. Hopefully get some sleep today, but well done. Andrew and Dawn today, I didn't know.
Invite us either.
I know.
Yeah, I didn't know when I was talking to her earlier.
You know what? I would pay not to go, to be honest with you. As a journalist, you know what it's like. You have to cover these things. You're up all night. You're working hard. You don't get to party. It's really just hard work. And his lordship is saying, "Oh, who's that? Molly May. I don't know. I've never heard of her. Who's she?"
Now I know she went out with that Fury bloke. I have heard of her.
Went with Tommy.
Down with the kids.
I don't really know why she's famous.
I'd look forward to seeing the Conclave.
I
really want to see that.
I read the book, and it's a great book, and I'm glad it won Best. I'm told it's terrific. And I did see the guy who won Best Actor deserved it, Adrian Brody.
Yes,
terrific. It's an amazing film.
There's a word for people like you.
What?
When we're talking about film awards, there's a word for people that go, "I've read the book, but I haven't seen the film."
Well, I couldn't get in.
Oh, right. yeah.
I could not get in. It was packed.
We've got 30 seconds for you. What have you got? What are you going to be talking about?
Do you drive at night?
Do I drive at night?
Yeah, because a lot of people won't, because there's a survey by the RCC showing a quarter of drivers now are terrified of driving at night because of the dazzle from these modern headlights.
Thankfully, of all the things that worry me, that isn't one of them, but interesting. I'll watch that with interest. Guys, 5 seconds. We've got to say goodbye.
Thanks.
We say hello to you tomorrow morning at the same time. Have yourselves a good day.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be largely dry for most of us today, but we'll start to see some snow in Scotland into Tuesday. Chilly, but turning milder by midweek. So through the rest of this morning, then we hold on to plenty of brightness across the southeast of England. Cloudier out towards the west with some outbreaks of rain that will eventually reach Northern Ireland later. Otherwise, we'll have some showers just affecting Orkney. Otherwise, for most of us, it is a dry day out there. Still chilly, especially in the east underneath the cloud. Temperatures here struggling at 4 to 5 degrees, but in towards the west, 8 to 10, and still quite breezy here too. So as we go through Monday evening and overnight across Scotland, actually it's a largely dry evening to come. There are still some showers just affecting Orkney and maybe into Shetland later, but a damp end to the day across Northern Ireland with heavy spells of rain moving through. So take care during rush hour. There could be some spray on the roads. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a largely dry evening.